to see. No one needs to see my mistakes. So I bet to ask why was it so small, but I forgot it's the same blue, like the purplish as the rest of my stuff. Anyway, yes, I'm ready.
Okay, I'm ready too.
The short one, right?
Yeah, short game.
Oh, it doesn't
include the mystery box?
Yeah, no.
Oh, that sucks.
Uh-oh.
Do you want to do regular? Because regular is
Can we? Is that okay with everyone?
Is that okay with you?
I'm down with regular.
Cinna. Okay, that's okay with you.
I'm down for. It's okay with me.
Oh my god, hi Faye!
What? Oh, what's gonna be our OST?
Yeah, what soundtrack do we want?
Yeah.
Oh,
what did
that's
we
like the
pick
fun
last
part.
time?
We did retro last time, I think. I think Cinna should pick this time. It's her first time playing. She should pick.
Oh shit, you're right. Okay, let's see. Oh, I'm a kawaii girly. Like, wait, let me turn this shit up. Oh, that's cute. I like that.
Okay. Yay.
I'm down for kawaii.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yes, oh my god, give them love.
So quiet? Okay.
Hello, Pookies. Welcome in. Oh, I need to move myself.
Are you want in the shared chat? My heart has been broken.
No! Oh my god. Okay, apple up. Paparate apple.
Yay!
Hello. Oh my god. Thank you for the follow, fish dinner. Oh my god. Welcome in.
A fun story about fish. You broke my bottle once.
Oh? Chicken jockey.
Chicken jockey. I'm sorry.
This fish name was chicken jockey.
It just broke my bottle at one point.
Who's gonna narrate?
You wanna like flip a coin? Hi Jimmy, how are you, Pookie? Should we rock paper scissors? Wait, we can't tell.
Yeah, should we rock paper scissors for it?
Wait, how do we do? Should we? Wait, there's a.
On 3, you just say the word. Okay, ready?
Okay.
1, 2, 3.
Paper. Okay, wow, damn.
Wait.
Wow, okay, jeez.
Paper.
You guys suck.
I don't know why. It just didn't register in my head that we were doing that.
What? You're good.
Okay, well, I'm the only one doing things.
You're holding it down for us. You're the one with the brain cells right now.
Okay.
Wait, who's saying it?
I have no idea.
Wait. I don't think I can read it.
Why, Fish, you can't be second.
He's not telling you.
Okay.
Fish, I love you.
SpookyCon. For some, it was just a nerdy convention, but for us, it was 4 days to celebrate our many passions and obsessions fiercely, unapologetically.
Thank you, Fish.
And we weren't alone, regardless of what you love. And you could always find people who make you feel seen and understood. Anywhere else, you might have been seen as weirdos and misfits. But here, we could finally feel like no matter who we are, we belong. Wow, so deep!
Oh, that's right, we have to choose.
I want my Figo.
Oh my god, does anybody have a preference?
I want Figo. I love
Figo.
She's my main. She's my main. I love her.
Okay.
I don't care who you guys pick.
Well, Cinna, do you have a preference?
I don't really have one. I like the Frankenstein girlie. She's cool, I guess.
Okay, you can take Frankenstein girlie. I'll be this one. I don't know who you are.
His name is Oz.
Okay. Oz.
Oh, I love Oz. He's
sorry,
so
Oz. Your name is not gonna be Oz today.
Your name is now Seal.
Yeah, your name is now Seal.
You have been changed.
You have been changed.
Being here feels...
Oh!
Oh, it's
I
me!
love the car.
Yo!
Cute.
Hi, Carmelo. Come in.
There it is.
Hello,
I know
Mickey.
where are my letters?
Playing.
There.
What are my letters?
Where?
I'm conquering the con.
God, her voice is so nice.
I know. Do you know about any voice actors in this game? Have you heard anything about them, Cinna?
Actually, I don't know. Wait,
Okay,
do you know
cool.
any? So what's the T? What's the
Oh,
T?
we do know some.
Nah,
we
you
know some.
Oh?
Yeah.
Oh? Spill tea? Spill tea?
I think it'd be better if you find it for yourself.
Oh no,
Yeah.
I'm scared.
It'd be really
Yeah,
funny if
it's
she
nothing
doesn't know
bad.
who he is.
Okay,
That'd be
but.
funnier.
That would be so funny. We're like, okay, do
See,
you
now
know
I gotta
him?
look it up. Now I'm curious.
Oh no, the
No,
voice
don't.
is very obvious.
It's very
you'll hear it
obvious.
once you hear it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they all famous?
Pick a character. One of them will be, yeah. You'll see. Oh wait, Cinna, you have to pick.
Oh yeah.
Yes, yes,
I'll
yes.
take the freaking girly.
You get the pick
Oh wait, I
yourself.
do it my end.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
oh, slay.
You do it on your end, yeah.
Ah, I've never done that. Okay, slay. It's me. I like lowercase letters.
No, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah,
I've
it's
got
good.
my cosplay ready.
It's still my lowercase.
Cute.
It's so funny.
I love her voice.
So cute. But as dreamy as SpookyCon was, it also came with its own set of pressures, some of which we already knew so. Oh, we already knew so well. Holy shit! At the end of those 4 days, the after party loomed over our heads, posing as the one evergreen question: will we get a date for that night? Oh, the after party at the con is crazy. As uncertainty plagued our hearts, we couldn't help but think of the 6 hottest nerds at the con. Hey yo! Zoe,
It's
an
my
eldritch cutie who
baby.
lit from endless deity and harbinger of destruction to the author of a renowned fanfic, Liam Brom. Oh my god, Liam, my
That's an
god!
awful idea.
Liam the Lion Court 4XX. A hipster vampire whose standoffish demeanor
I can't be
with the
flipped.
fact that he was truly a lovable dork. I love him so much.
Hooray!
My
Wait, who's
himbo.
this? I love him!
Little
Doug
himbo.
Campbell, 24, a kind-hearted slime that was incredibly broke from supporting the fandoms he loved. Wait, these are so many new characters. I
I
love
know.
this. Omen, 25, an evil overlord who recently freed from imprisonment in exchange for giving up her passion for stabbing people. Wait, I love her.
I have the perfect cosplay for that.
Nico Sharp, 22, the over-the-top mimic who preferred cosplay over shapeshifting, even if they weren't at the best at getting into character.
Anyway,
Wait, she's so cute. Fuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
April
She's
1st,
adorable.
24. Clown Idol? Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah.
Who was contractually obligated to bottle up all her non-camera ready emotions inside cute mascots.
Wait, so was
It
it
had
you
to
or
be
Ellie
one of
that
them,
went
but
after
who?
April last time?
Me.
Okay.
Oh my god, I must riz.
And I
so
failed.
many
I was the
good
only
ones.
one that failed to
Yeah, you're the only
romance
one who
my
didn't get a
pick.
date.
I
No!
was the only
That's so
one.
bad.
Elsie got the
Bro.
fuck, respectfully. Elsie got laid. I got to go on a date
Yeah.
with a himbo and you got rejected.
Yeah, we got all the different type of endings.
Yeah.
That was so good.
We had 4 days to gather some courage and shoot our shot. What was the worst that can happen? Being rejected and alone for the rest of our lives? Huh. We had our fair share of love and rejection. This surely wasn't our first rodeo. And as we had grown to know ourselves better, we realized we felt more confident. Woo! We're confident.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
and on like the bottom left, it tells you if it's your turn, and you'll like control everything.
Yeah.
That's so good.
You take turns between the 3 of
So
them.
right now you'll
Yeah,
see
yeah.
it sleeping and it says not your turn. When it gets to your turn, it'll be like
Ethan.
yellow and awake and stuff.
Ethan.
'Cause, like how it is on my screen, because it's my turn, and I gotta pick
Yeah.
the things I like.
Yes, pick
Oh.
Yowie, because that's funny.
I gotta pick out.
Yowie.
We gotta do it.
So fun.
That's so fucking good.
Also, PhD on ship dynamics, and
I love
gonna
that
go
stabbing
with...
is just one. Like, that's my special interest,
yeah.
stabbing.
Are these different from last time? It feels like
no,
some
I
of them
think
are the
they're
same, and some of them are different.
I think some of them might be different, but most of them are the same.
It
Because
would
I
be cool
remember
if you, like,
role-playing
swapped
in
them.
bed. I remember making a joke about that one.
Because I don't remember shiny dice.
I do not. I
or
remember
5D chests. Or
remember-
DDR. I don't remember these.
I
But I remember Yaoi was we all picked
Oh
Yaoi.
yeah, we all had Yaoi.
And I feel like I remember something about ships.
Yeah, with ships, I remember power scaling your friends as well. Role-playing in bed and Magical Girls with a Twist, like, for sure. I remember all of them. But yes, about it.
What am I gonna pick for my last one?
Oh, these are kind of good.
I do
Like
like
DDR
drama.
as exercise.
Good chisme.
The chisme.
Chisme, yeah, I love good gossip. You know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go with it.
Yeah.
Drama.
Oh, yo, okay, hold up. Yaoi,
Yaoi.
role-playing in bed, and I want to pick stabbing, but I also want to like pick things that I think Zoe would like. Gonna build my person to be Zoe. I guess ship dynamics that makes the most sense.
Magical girls with a dark twist. Is hell
That's a
yeah.
good one.
Oh wait, Yaoi, duh.
Yaoi, of course.
Yes.
Yaoi gay. We're playing in bed. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Yo, wait, are these animals different?
Wait, these are cute.
Yeah. Wait, these are new. These are different.
Ew.
So they do give us different things.
Okay,
oh, that makes
that's
it so
cool.
much better.
That's great.
That really adds to like replayability and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my top 3. I'm sorry, this little wolf with the
Monster-fucking game
eyeballs
is what it
just
is.
so good.
I like
Also, like,
his little
the horse
eyes.
is just really pretty, and I gotta pick dolphin, dude.
Yes.
I gotta pick one and I gotta pick one
I do
marine
love
one.
I do love me squid and octopus.
These
And
are so
dolphin because you're gonna get the
good.
sea creature.
You're so pretty.
I
Pick the
know.
dolphin. Kind of fucking with the squid and then the pony. We were all new to this, so this time we challenged ourselves with a new goal other than finding love. With the support of Zoe and Liam, we had decided to take on the project we have been putting off for too long.
I have too many.
Yes!
Making our own comic. We have so many ideas, yet found excuses not to work on them. But the con was the perfect setting to find inspiration and go for it. Whoa.
Whoa.
Change the genre?
Oh wait, we got a new one.
Yeah.
We did romance
Oh.
last time. We got hero. Like I'm guessing it's. Was that like secret
I like
identity? What was
sci-fi.
that?
Hiding,
Is this sci-fi?
hero, and
Actually?
space.
Yes.
Oh. This
We
is
went
sci-fi.
sci-fi.
Yeah, let's just
I kind of want to
Yeah.
see what sci-fi is.
Yeah.
The fear of failure had stopped us for too long, but we kept reminding ourselves of the one thing that kept us going. That we were young and unafraid. What? And we were ready to start.
About getting
Oh.
bitches.
Yeah. Monster
Freaking bitches. Let's
Get
go.
bitches.
Really?
Bitches.
Really?
Okay, I have got to go to I have to go to Artist Alley. I gotta go to the merch.
Oh, yeah.
I gotta go to
Yes.
That's like, yo, wait, that's actually so cute. It's all eye.
Dragon heat is crazy.
I know.
Oh my god. That's
You buy
so
all the
cool.
You buy a cool t-shirt which features the entire JoJo family tree. What the fuck? Needless to say,
That's a
it's several
big
sizes too
t-shirt.
big for you.
Oh.
You get to the back of the stands to return it, but the vendor doesn't take refunds. Unacceptable.
Whoa.
What he can give you is a free JoJo pose. You take it, it forces the limits of your
Look,
flexibility.
we're not losing
but you
charm
gain 2 charm
immediately.
for circus such a pose.
I know, no,
Wait, that's
I
really
am
gas.
gotta be focused about because last time like the
We were in like the negatives in charm at the end of
we were
it. It
in
was so
negative
bad.
charm. It was bad.
Yeah, no one's gonna want you if you're not charming a little bit.
Hey, look, okay,
Yeah,
to
it
be
was
fair,
bad.
Elsie was a like negative
focusing
3
on
and she
charm
got
today.
laid, okay? She was negative 3 charm and she got laid. She was
Yeah,
fine.
that's true. I was the only one that had, I think I had
Damn.
like 0 or like 2 or something.
Yeah, you had
I
like,
didn't.
and
I
you
was
got
She's
just like,
rejected. Elsie and I were both below
did.
you, and we got like we got dates.
Okay, I can say this for like my turn and stuff. We can each
Yeah, go
like
ahead.
narrate our turns. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that
You,
makes better.
Liam, Zoe, and April are browsing Artist Alley looking for any prints that grab your attention. You end up finding a booth that doesn't so much grab your attention as a step on it. Feet of all shapes, sizes, and colors are painted on display here. What?
Oh, yo, what?
Whoa!
This is new. This is new off the bat, bro.
I do not.
Bro, this is what you see. What the fuck? I'm running a sale socks on sketches for Apple.
Oh hell no!
Really? No, that's crazy.
I love it.
That's crazy. Wow, dude, when you commit to an aesthetic, you commit. I respect that, but why feet? I merely find them fascinating, physically, emotionally, spiritually,
Oh,
obsessively.
hell no.
That's all.
I love
never
that.
thought
I
would
love
say
that
these
for him.
sentences.
Oh hell no! You're
Perhaps one of you'd like to commission me to draw your own movie? I'm always interested in finding new models. Listen, bro,
Look,
you gotta make that
Look,
make
it's
sense.
not as bad
nah.
as you eating Liam's cock drawing.
He wants the feet for the
Oh,
free.
God. Don't even mention that drawing. Jesus, that shit was weird.
There was a
Oh
drawing
my
of
God.
Liam's cock. Like, well, obviously it wasn't shown, but
Huh?
like
It wasn't
they
his. It wasn't
mentioned
his. It was like a really good
He
drawing
did a
of one.
drawing of cock, right? And it was Seal's turn. And so to save the world from the magnificence of this cock, she ate the drawing. So she ate Liam's cock.
You ate.
It was so bad. It was so weird. I
was
did not
great.
think that was crazy. I was just like, this is wild.
He was
game, but
heartbroken.
okay.
He was heartbroken by it.
He was so sad. What was the other option? Like ripping it up? Or
Oh yeah,
some
ripping
shit?
it up or eating
Oh
it.
no, drawing over it.
Oh
or
yeah,
something.
yeah. You had to draw over
Yeah,
it,
yeah, yeah.
make it not so beautiful.
And I was like, you can't draw on another artist's like work.
So you ate it.
That's why I just ate it.
Yeah.
It was bad.
It was yummy, yummy
I
art.
drawn over it.
Oh, you could have done that. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Alrighty. The closest you'll ever get to my view is getting one paired in your ass.
Wait, I love that.
Oh,
I love her.
I love his face. His face is great.
Because I'm guessing you like hikes, lots of walking and feet involved. That's all I was trying to say.
I'm impressed.
You're certainly a master of drawing feet, my friend. I'm impressed. Feet are infamously difficult to draw. That is really true, though. They are very difficult to draw.
Mhm.
And hands. I don't like hands.
God, they really are. Everyone complains about hands, but you know what they say? Feet are just the hands of the leg.
What?
I guess. I don't know. Do you have any tips for a humble yaoi artist
Humble
looking to
yaoi
improve at drawing feet? I don't employ any specific technique when I draw feet, honestly. It's more like a kismet or a mitzvah?
Mitzvah.
Mitzvah.
Mm,
It's the siren
mitzvah.
song of the foot.
Yo,
with its
yo,
serious
siren
Oh,
song.
hell
Hello.
soul, guiding my pencil where it must go.
I heard siren song. I've been summoned.
Oh my God. Yeah, siren. Well, the foot siren definitely isn't singing to me, but does anyone else have any advice on how to draw feet? I'll take any. Oh, you may not have advice, but you do have random bullshit you can pass off as advice. Oh god. Okay, draw a pair of shoes and erase them from your drawing while now the feet are showing.
Oh
Which line from someone for
no.
you know what they say. You gotta walk a mile in someone else's shoes if you wanna know their feet. Like, really well.
Really well.
Honestly, I
That
want
one's
to pick the
kinda
second
funny.
one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think that one's more fun.
Okay.
It would have
That's
really
not how
funny
the
to see
saying
them.
goes, but for some reason, everyone's still down. You all switch your shoes in your lives for a couple hours to get better at drawing feet. Liam becomes a popular idol. He looks unnervingly good in clown shoes. Why pose down in record time?
No.
April writes a fanfic about her good friend Zoe attending an interdimensional Zoe prom and having an TAU cell sign. What the fuck? Liam's love beautiful butts and become mildly insufferable by correcting everyone's grammar.
I love that.
Zoe wears your shoes and becomes really horny on me, which is a bunch of a team effort, but at least
Oh my
she's a
god. Getting called out.
Oh my
Horny
god.
on main is crazy.
Crazy. Bro, I forget how like wild this game is.
Oh yeah.
Well, you meet back up later with a deeper appreciation for your friends and an appreciation for how badly his feet was hurt all the time. Alright, let's see if this worked. I'm gonna try to draw Seal's feet.
Oh, hell no. Wait,
Yo.
what the fuck? Why is it kind of low-key, like, good, too? Like, they really took their time with that one.
Listen, my advice is I just have god tier advice, that's all.
Wow.
Wow, I did it. I really did
Wow,
it.
stealing my
Good work,
woman.
Zoe. I can never put it into words before, but now I see it Seal's feet. I like it so much more.
Oh, no.
Feet for free.
Not me, babes, bro.
Feet
That's,
for
that's
free.
something.
That's crazy.
Yeah, such a strong arch, such
Aw.
juicy toes. The things this game makes me say. It's crazy.
I'm gonna get clipped so hard.
Oh god, yeah, you are.
Wait, April, I
I was
haven't
just
gotten to
gonna
draw
say
your
it.
feet yet.
Oh, no.
Oh no, that's okay. We already proven that the method works. Are you sure? Look, I already got some early renderings.
What?
If you draw my feet, the only thing getting rendered will be rendered unconscious in a ditch.
I love her.
Oh my god.
She's great.
Some people just don't appreciate fine footwork. Or fine foot art. Fine foot art.
You got more charm, but
Fine
less
True, but at least you
creativity.
gain +2 charm, but you lose 2 negativity. Ugh,
Creativity.
it's fine. Oh, creativity.
I was like, I
Real,
lose
real.
negativity.
You got it, queen.
That's not a thing.
Oh god.
Okay, where do I want to go?
Oh.
Hatsune Miku or Expo? Actually,
Oh my god.
I'm gonna go to the lobby. Cause I'd love.
Oh
my gosh, it's so good.
It's great. You walk around the lobby when you feel a sudden urge to pee. Look for a bathroom quick. Bathrooms are gross, but you know the thing about bathrooms. Using them always ensures +2 boldness. It's the main reason why people use them. Ah, some things never change. Later, you walk into the lobby with April, Zoe, and Liam, but it's quite busy at this time. You're fighting just to stay together.
Wait, look at that!
Wait, they look so cute.
Oh my god! She's the Garfield cosplay is Kyoto. I love it.
She looks amazing.
Come on,
Oh
gang,
my
we can't get separated in the
God.
crowd. Let's hold hands for safety.
Don't be
Oh.
ridiculous.
Is that really necessary? Yes, yes it is. Shut up. Liam, you naive little newbie. Just trust me. You don't want to get separated at a con. Well, hold hands is great because that's second base for you. Yes, touching hands at second base. It's been a rough year, so you've adjusted your bases to reflect more realistic goals. Unfortunately, your hands are sweaty before you realize that April slipped from her grasp. Help! I thought I told everyone to stick together. April's too petite to fight the crowd current. It's fine, Zoe. Look, she's just a few feet ahead. We'll rejoin her at the end of the room. This is bad. That current's gonna take us straight to the con chasm.
What?
What is that?
Into the what? The con chasm. You know, the bottomless chasm cutting through the middle of the lobby. You really are in con newbie, huh? Why is there a bottomless chasm in the middle of the lobby? Who knows? Maybe someone just thought it'd be funny to have a bottomless chasm at a con and now everybody does it on principle.
Jesus.
You'd better save April if you ever want any of your friends to take you to third base. Prolonged eye contact. Do something. Preferring a guitar solo is so awesome that you gain the right to crowd surf. This way you can pull April out of the crowd riptide. It's too late for her to Just befriend a random con goer and make them the new April. It's what old
That's
April
so
would have
fun.
wanted. Probably.
It's so fun.
Oh, you know what? I'm gonna do so good at my guitar.
Yeah.
I hate to be a buzzkill here. Since when do you hate being a buzzkill? I thought that was like a core part of your identity. But that plan requires a guitar, which you don't have right now. That's true. Then a mysterious stranger appears and hands you an electric guitar. You can do it, Depresso, they say with a wink. I believe in you. What the fuck? No time to be confused. You shred that guitar to fucking pieces with the most epic solo ever. People
Heck
tend to look
yeah.
at you, realizing how cool you are. You have earned the right to crowd surf. The crowd lifts you up. By technically clenching your butt, you give them signals on where to lead you. You reach April and take her in your arms.
I'm too pretty for this.
Don't ever lose your grip of me again. I'm too pretty to die in a place like this. I mean, Prezzo, my hero. You two crowd surf back to your other friends.
Not bad.
Okay. I admit that was pretty cool, but you should give the guitar back to Presso. You turn back to the stranger, but no one is there.
What the fuck?
Wow. Maybe it was a ghost. This is the monster realm, Zoe. There are dozens of ghosts here, and I'm pretty sure the guitar owner was a harpy. We are in a super crowded place. It's only normal that they disappear into the crowd. True, true. Maybe we should leave the guitar at the lost and found? You decided to do the sensible thing. Pawn the guitar for money and items for everyone. Yum, you gain creativity
my
and lose
God.
2 charm.
Oh.
Let's stick to the schedule.
What the fuck?
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
That was insane.
Heartbroken. Losing charm, but I saved April, it's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go see Hatsune Miku.
Go
I
see
love
Hatsune
Miku.
Miku.
You
That's
decided
so
to
hot.
attend a panel on the merits of soft versus hard magic systems in the magical world fiction. After getting the required dick jokes out of the way, you actually learn a lot of valuable information about world building mechanics. You gain 2 smarts for all that knowledge from learning so many new dick jokes. Wait, say one. What the fuck? Later, you, Nico, Liam, and April attend a panel titled, "Can the power of friendship beat everything?" Let's find out.
Oh my god,
This is gonna be a
Nico.
short panel. Wait, Nico's so cute. What? In the little fucking box? Is that from like the...
Yeah,
He's a mimic.
It's from like the
so-
game. The power of friendship literally never fails. Thank you for coming. I
face
know
is
what
new.
you're
What the-
thinking. This will be a short panel when the power of friendship... When has the power of friendship ever failed?
Dang.
Dang, he's good. But we must think, how can the power of friendship be scaled? How can we empirically test the power of friendship across media? With pixel measurements and algebraic formulas, obviously. Oh god. Let's compare the power of Maka and Soul's friendships in Soul Eater to that of All Might and Deku's in My Hero Academia.
God.
Holy shit.
Snooze fuzz.
That's
Wait, I gotta do
crazy.
math if I want to be powerful, friend. I've been doing it all wrong.
What a tryhard.
Oh, this panel is a load of pretentious drivel. Imagine trying to explain the power of friendships using only algebra. Someone clearly hasn't heard of differential calculus.
Okay,
Oh my
Liam,
God.
I
Jesus.
love him. Why he gotta though? Like, why he... You cry out as you feel an eagle talon grips. What? What? Your arm hard.
Oh.
You see that April has grabbed. Oh, it's her. Save
See, brother.
me. She's right. You all need saving. Leo and Nico have fallen under this panelist Takumi's spell of other
Emperor's here
intellectual
for
bullshit.
Clown Girl.
Yup.
You gotta say something to debunk this whole bullshit panel and show everyone that it's not that deep. Aren't all of our attempts to build overly complicated formulas just a way of coping with life's uncertainties? If friendship is such an effective power source, do you want to be friends with me? Wait, that's low-key kind of funny. I'm kind of gonna do the second one.
Okay.
Sure, I guess. Sweet, a new friend. Let's go do friend bonding stuff. You decided to throw a party at your new friend's house. You invited 40 people because your new friend deserves a big-ass party. Finally home. What was all this? Who are these people?
You're Such a silly goose.
They're your guests, you silly goose. We threw a party to celebrate your new friendships with Cinna. Yeah, thanks for having us, by the way. Someone clogged the toilet. Oh, by the way, someone clogged the
Was it
toilet.
Nico?
Also, could you buy some more snacks soon? We've emptied the fridge already. I must say, if you wanted to throw a party, you should have been a better host and bought more food. I had no idea I was hosting a party. Still, you could have bought more snacks, but I accidentally broke that big vase in the bedroom, so we can call it even, okay? What? Those were my mother.
No!
Those are my mother's ashes.
Mm.
Okay, I gotta be
you were
honest
right.
with you. It was me who clogged the toilet. Fuck ass Nico. After 4 hours of partying,
Hi,
everyone
fish.
left. But you, your friends, and some drunk who passed out in the bathtub. My house is
Oh,
destroyed.
we don't know.
That's the power of friendship.
That's what the fuck. The power.
No big deal. I
takes
used the
that.
power of friendship to fix it.
Oh god.
Nico strains their muscle as hard as they can, and nothing happens.
Womp womp.
Well, I guess that myth is busted. Honestly, better this way. It was really cheap when the situation magically gets solved by the power of friendship. Liam's right. It's for the best. We lost 2 smarts but gained 2 trips for making a new friend. Fuck, the smarts I
Oh, nice.
gained.
Oh, everybody
Oh.
choose an animal. Say your choice out loud to the other players
Oh,
before advancing.
yo, these bits. That's right.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Koala.
Oh, lemur.
Wait, what'd you say, Depresso?
I haven't said one yet.
Oh my god, hi Siri, welcome in. Oh, and Will, welcome in. Welcome in.
I don't think.
Which one did you say?
Hasn't picked yet.
Oh, thinking, Duncan.
I said
I'm
koala.
thinking.
Yeah, take your time.
There was shark.
Okay, so I said shark.
I said shark. You said koala.
You said shark. Sorry, I got it mixed up. I said koala. Depresso said shark, and Cinna
Cinna
said
says
lemur. Right?
Lemur.
Lemur.
Okay.
Okay.
Lemur.
Okay.
There's no soul at all. Okay.
No soul
I
at all
can
is
speak
great.
from experience. Koalas.
I feel like
Oh,
koalas
okay.
are kind of
Okay, so seals first.
I don't know about sharks. I feel like lemurs are low-key kind of...
I feel like lemurs
like
have
they're
more
friendly.
soul than sharks do.
Yeah, I feel like they're more friendly, so I can go eyes.
Like,
Okay, so
koalas
then-
don't have a soul because they're drop bears. Drop bears just never had a soul.
What does that mean?
Oh my god, do you not know about drop bears?
Oh wait, drop bears! They're scary!
No,
Oh my god, you don't know about drop bears?
I don't.
Oh my god, we need to go on a learning rant.
What is it?
They're
Okay,
so
hold on.
scary.
Drop bears are the most terrifying creatures. I'm gonna send you a photo of drop bears. Okay, and I'm gonna send you.
Also, thank you for the follow, Cat Girl Reign Supreme. I
Okay, so
appreciate it. What is
you
it?
sound terrified already.
Oh, because you're making it sound
Shaking in your
scary.
boots.
Okay, so this
They're
is
all-
drop bear. Yeah, drop bears will give you chlamydia. Shut up! It's not gaslighting. Shut up. This is also a drop bear. Hold on. Here you go.
What is that?
This is
What
also a drop bear.
What? What?
What?
What is this?
Hold
What
on.
is this a real thing?
No, they're just koalas.
What the heck?
I appreciate for the help on the gaslight though. Hold on. Let me actually share my screen for this because it's so funny. Hold on.
Fuck ads
I
drop
thought you were talking
bear.
about a real thing, not
I
just
just-
some
I
Real
literally
and
just
true.
put in 2 photos.
You just sent me
So
2
beautiful
pictures of a
video.
koala. One where it
Two
looks scary as
koalas.
fuck, and the other one where it's just holding a gun.
The first one is just terrifying.
So the
The
first
first
one
one's scary.
is
It looks like a rotten animatronic or some shit.
it's
I
literally
was
just
thinking the
a
same
wet
thing.
koala. That's all it is.
He looks like he doesn't look real.
It's either wet or burnt. I don't remember. But that photo, like,
Burnt?
whenever, yeah,
Aw.
like his,
That's so
like,
sad.
see on the top of his head how it's like it looks really, really black, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I
It's
guess
either
then-
from like wildfires or it's just water.
Aw.
Also, thank you so much for following.
Yeah.
But
Well,
like,
I mean,
I can drop bear's like the biggest gaslight in all of Australian history. Everyone just goes along with it. Like you mentioned any Australian drop bear like in front of someone who's very obviously not from Australia. Anyone in the vicinity who hears it will corroborate your story. It's just it's just culture. It's great.
okay.
I've
Country full of
gotten the drop bear
gaslighters.
lies.
Well, since apparently koalas don't have a soul, that means I get to go first.
Yeah. No, koalas are actually really
Because
loving
it's on which one has
creatures, but
no
drop bears
soul.
suck.
Okay, so wait.
It's not my turn, so I can't select. So whoever's selecting, I guess I go
Okay,
first.
wait, you're first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
And then yeah, so it's the same. It's the same.
Okay.
It'll be
Yo,
nice.
yo! I forgot it was dating.
I want to sit with. Okay. I'm not gonna pick. Okay. Well, who do y'all want to romance?
I
Because
either
like
want
we
to
can only
romance.
each choose one
Model
table.
is so
That's
cool.
why
Thank
I'm
you
like.
so much. It's just a Suika model with a bunch of texture edits done by me. Yeah, I'm either wanna go Zoe or like Nico. So whichever one you like, whichever table you pick, I'll just like pick the other one for.
Okay. Cinna, who do you want to romance?
I'm down for. I'm down for Liam or Nico. It doesn't matter who. I always
Okay.
romance Liam. That's my goat.
That's so fair.
Oh, okay.
Who do you guys want the most though?
I'm just Car Lady. I'm a siren.
I don't know.
That's the problem. I never know who
Good
to
job.
romance sometimes.
There are too many options and they're all hot.
Well, it's just because like I already tried romancing April and I failed.
Oh.
Try romancing my himbo.
I don't want
Himbo.
to romance him because we've already seen his. Like I want to do someone different.
Okay, so the only ones we have different are Nico, Zoe, and Liam.
Yeah. Well, you said you
I'm okay
you
with
wanted to Zoe.
yeah, I'm okay with either Zoe or with either Zoe or Nico. And Cinna said that she was
I
okay
don't
with
want-
Liam or Nico, so
Well, maybe I just steal Nico from both of y'all.
yeah, break both of our
Hey, no.
hearts.
Honestly, you got the first. You got the first choice.
Yeah, you do. Also, thank you so
Okay,
much, but I
okay.
love my voice.
Go where your heart
Okay.
takes you.
That way, y'all have like the other option each too.
Yes.
That is true.
And like we don't have to fight for a table.
Nah, we gotta throw hands, man.
Rowan
God.
hands.
Okay, I already. If you've already said no to me, I'll try romancing.
You're sitting with your
another
ex.
time. My heart's still broken. I'm just joking.
Go to
Okay.
dinner.
Board game night, visit a museum. Oh, museum! Or go out to
Oh,
dinner.
wait, have we seen
What
the
is
museum one before?
I don't think we have.
Okay, do you wanna
I don't know. The little artist in me wants to go
the
to.
clown girly? Yeah, go to a museum. Go to a museum. We haven't seen that one yet.
What is
What's
the
up to you?
peppers
But like,
mean?
I don't think we actually figured it out.
I don't know either. I want this one.
The clown
Wait,
girl
stop that
got you gasm. The clown girl is hot. He's adorable.
He's so
You wouldn't go
cute.
decide to visit an art
Come on.
museum.
Think of something smart to say.
Oh,
Oh, that was me. Oh, I was like, that's not his.
Yeah,
That's
that's-
not Nico's VA.
Yeah.
Okay, you're surprised to learn Nico loves old paintings. They're full of drama, passion, even murder. Yes! Yay!
Yo!
Okay, I'm happy, he's happy. Okay, you'd never thought about it, but a lot of paintings are kind of like anime. All exaggerated poses and oversized emotions. Yep.
You know what? Real.
I like a
Real and
heart.
true.
Aww.
Nico even tries imitating some famous ones like The Last Supper, all 13 characters, and The Scream. Damn, you didn't know they were this versatile.
Someone get me food.
Oh, yay!
Okay. Here we go. Hi, Zoe. Oh, yo. Watch a
Oh.
movie is new, but
She's
this
so
one's nothing.
cute.
So,
No spice.
no spice. I kind of want to go spice.
Yeah, I think that we should go
I think a
spice.
spice.
Do it.
Oh my god, she's eating
She's
with
so
all her
cute.
little tentacles. Oh my god, I love her. You and Zoe go out to a fancy restaurant.
Don't you dare order something
Oh,
rare.
food.
You decide to do the romantic cliche and split a milkshake with 2 straws. You two can do that cute thing where you look into each other's eyes while you drink. Zoe thanks you for the milkshake and then uses the second straw to drink with her leg mouth as well. Huh. But this gives you an unexpectedly good view of her butt, so you're not gonna complain.
Okay, slay.
I got Zoe butt in my face? Hell yeah.
Zoe butt. Ooh, I want spice.
Go for a walk.
You and Leo going on. They should go to the park.
Cute.
They're so cute together.
I know.
This is
Nice to
super
stretch
cute.
my legs.
Liam spends the whole time telling you the complete and exhaustive history of the man bun.
Yep.
You tune out most of it. You're more focused on watching his luscious purple I'm sorry, what? Shit about you couldn't care less about. At the end of the night, Liam got to hear himself talk, and you get to stare at him without seeming creepy for once. It's a perfect night for you both.
I would love that.
But
You could just stare at
like
him
that
without
one
seeming
audio
of, like,
creepy.
Oh my god. That's so
Blah
funny.
blah blah.
Comic.
Oh,
property.
yo, comic!
Grabbing
Oh, it's still going.
soldier stuff.
Oh,
it's fine.
I can
Okay,
read it.
it's my turn.
Oh, yeah, yeah, gotcha.
You dive into comic work again. You're excited since the other day you had an idea for a kick-ass new character. Oh, nice! I love weekly characters. You
my
gotta
God,
admit, this
yes.
character is secretly based on a friend of yours, so you first give them a call to check if they're okay with you using their likeness. Oh. What's a job from the distant future you wish you could have?
Remember correctly, we all do this, right?
Capture
Capture
designer?
designer.
What is that?
You know what captures
the
are? Like, you know,
captures-
oh, click all the traffic lights, like everyone that has a bridge. Those are captures.
Oh.
So you just make them.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm wondering if the person who made that like rich or something. They have to be. Right?
Probably, maybe. I
True.
mean, the amount of captures that like get used in everything.
Exactly.
Real.
Keeper of the Planet,
Wait.
Jupiter's Secret, Darkest Secret, World's Leading Expert on the Number 6, or Shrek Movie Tester.
Low-key,
The thing
Shrek
before
movie
you log
tester
into
goes
things
hard.
is the greatest description of a capture I've ever heard.
What? Hello, Gin Shitter. Welcome in. Love sensor of job is crazy. Job, employment, money,
Spooky.
work, 9 to 5.
Oh,
You know what? Do y'all have an opinion on any of them?
I think we just do our own. Because if I remember correctly, we all picked one.
I think we do.
Oh, okay. Listen, if this was the number 3, then I'd pick it. But it ain't, so I'm going to go with Shrek Movie Tester.
Time for a
Oh,
brainstorm.
Whoa. Oh. You won $2 million, but you have to spend it in the next 5 minutes. Quick, spend them. Oh.
Oh,
Buy the
oh.
rights to the letter W. Spend it on Tetris microtransactions and
Tetris.
cosmetics. That's insane. How convenient. Send it to the financially destitute prince who emailed you 2 months ago.
Oh, no.
Time to fulfill your dream of becoming a saxophone player. Loki.
I mean, if
We
you
sent
buy
it to the
rights,
grid.
deliver-
No, I'm kidding. What is the letter W gonna do? Let's see. Let me think.
Well, I mean, you have. That means
Can I-
anytime someone uses the word W, like they
I
they
get
have
money.
to like.
Yeah.
They gotta pay me. Yo, we're
Yeah,
rich,
yeah.
guys. We're rich finally.
Oh look, we all got smarts from that.
Oh, yeah, we're so
Nice.
cooking.
How do you get back to the con?
Oh no, it's a
You
horror.
sure
game
it's my
after
turn?
all.
Horror game.
Well, that's too bad we're at a con. This is all of it is big crowds, my dude. It's okay.
No horror.
What do I want? Where do I want to go?
I want to
I
go to
want
the
something
merch hall this
creative. Where do you get creativity from the lobby?
time. Was that at the stage?
Oh, is it stage?
I thought it was stage. Cause I know,
I thought it was-
I know the
Lobby, because you got
no, the lobby is
creativity.
boldness.
Oh.
Yeah, because I had this shit on the public toilets, so I got bold from that. I think creativity was the yeah. I
Oh,
think
that's
I
right.
pissed.
You're right.
I think I pissed since I went to the public toilets and they're gross and disgusting.
Oh,
so you
you're
get
right,
bold.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think it might be the stage. Because you're learning things, you get
Um,
creative and stuff.
Oh wait, you hit tab, you can see it.
panels, that's why.
If you hit tab,
Huh?
you'll see it. The tab,
Tab?
the tab. Oh wait, no,
Oh,
you
yo,
don't.
it actually does.
Never mind, I lied.
Creativity.
Oh, it does. Okay, cool.
Yeah, hold tab.
Cool,
It's
cool,
the
cool.
hotel.
What? Hold tab.
Yeah,
Yeah, hold tab. It shows you what to get.
the hotel. Hold tab, and then as you're looking at the map, it shows
Oh,
you.
I see it. The little the.
Yeah. So the
Little
hotel is
icons.
in creativity.
Okay. Okay, I guess I go to hotel then.
Yes, this is good
Why is
to
it
know. This is good to
creative?
know.
What the fuck?
Oh, look at this
the
called the lamb. I forgot.
It's so cute.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Oh my god, I love
Lounging. Oh wait, isn't there like a thing where it's like, oh yeah, the generic? Okay, whatever. Lounging around the hotel, you see a sign in front of the conference room. Con artist meeting. Awesome. You learn lots of cool techniques. They feel much more like scams, but who are you to judge what is and isn't art? You gain +2 creativity, learning to bend truth to make a quick buck.
Oh my god.
God. Then you get a text from Nico asking you to meet them at their hotel room. Apparently, they've got a big surprise to show you.
Ooh.
Yo.
Hey, so I need a second
Yo.
opinion. You've always got great ideas that never go wrong, so I figured I'd ask you. Oh god, so much pressure. I'm entering the cosplay Grand Prix. It's the biggest cosplay contest at the con, so I gotta pull out all the stops to make the biggest impression. That's why I gotta debut this outfit there. You ready for this? Oh god.
Wait, that's so good. That's
Oh
so
my
good.
god, I'm the Joker, baby! Jesus,
I'm
it's
the
so
Joker,
good.
baby.
So cute.
Oh my
I
god,
love
I
the
love how he has to
reference.
keep like the chest like turns into like this little car.
Yeah.
So
So
cute.
good.
I'm the Joker, baby.
Oh, that looks
I
great.
love
You'll
him.
win the cash prize for sure. It's not about the money, it's about sending a message.
Nico, master of disguise.
I love him.
He's
So
so
it's just that I'm the
good.
greatest cosplayer ever, of course. But the thing is, if you win the Grand Prix, you gotta know the cosplay and the talent show portion of the contest.
Oh
For my
god.
act, I thought about blowing up a hospital, or killing a Robin, or diving into a vat of toxic waste, but the judges said those are all too psychopathic. Some people just don't understand the art of method cosplay. Oh, his sad face.
Dude.
Oh.
He's so precious.
Oh.
So sad.
So dumb.
Call
Anyway,
him
do you have
dumb.
any talent act ideas that won't get me hurt or arrested? A cathartic dance number down a flight of stairs that makes people want to become you despite you being a known murderer.
This is so good.
Good one. This was, this was very trendy. The Joker is known for fighting the Batman, but Nico will have to make do with the next big thing you have. This bag of this bag of actual bets. Oh god, no. No, not act no.
Love
no,
that.
no,
Love that.
No.
No.
Ooh,
We picked the cathartic dancing.
Smart.
Ah, thank you.
Oh my
Great
God.
idea. Everyone loves a dance number, but I'd better practice before the big day. You and Nico set out to find some stairs to practice on. Start the music, deal. Here I go. Oh, he looks so happy.
Aww.
He's so cute. Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no! Oh, Nico wipes up spectacularly and starts falling down the stairs. No, please don't break your leg. Please don't break your leg. Oh god! Ow my head! Ow my butt! Ow my head! Ow my butt! Ow my head! Ow my butt! Posterior cranial fossa. What is that?
What?
I don't.
It's in the back of the head. Why did you just say ow my head? I was worried I was getting redundant.
Oh. Oh.
Oh god, Nico falls for so long that it goes from tragic to comical to really anatomical to tragic again. When they finally stop falling, their cosplay is basically destroyed. No, baby, I'm so sorry.
Oh, he's so
He's
cute.
just a baby.
I'm so sorry. Nico sounded like a good idea at the time. It's okay. It's partly my fault. I should have played it safe and just walked down the stairs normally. I flew too close to the sun. But what are you gonna do about the cosplay down Grand Prix? I don't think your costume is salvageable.
Pursued by bear.
Maybe not for me, but I know someone who can fix it. I gotta make a call. I'll keep you posted. They run off. You gain +2 creativity for your the fuck, how do you say this?
Theatrical.
Theatrical. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Real. What's up,
Yeah,
guys?
hi,
Theatrical
Tara.
idea, but you lose 2 boldness.
Let's
Tara's
see
here.
this
Hi,
time.
Tara.
Oh, her dog. You're in for a wild ride.
Axeman! Hi. Walking around the merch hall, you
Where's
notice
my
a stand
Wi-Fi?
full of retro toys. Hey, some of these you remember from your childhood. Actually, you remember all of them. Did this guy raid your parents' house? You buy all of them just in case. Life was full of charm back then, before reality made you a cynic. You might be too old for these toys today. You can still siphon +2 charm from the memories. You and your friends are browsing Artist Alley. Compared to the lewd emoji sculptures you just passed, finding a foot fetish art stand is downright tame.
Oh.
Again?
No, not this fucker again.
I got
Oh my
that.
God.
This himbo is haunting me.
This info is haunting you.
This foot symbol.
The first thing I saw on my screen was a semi-naked D. He's a mimic.
He's a mimic.
Good afternoon. Does anything catch your eye? Everything's on sale.
He's
Not
so
in defeat
dumb.
of other pieces you might like. I could even draw a hand if you want. No, never mind. Please don't let me draw a hand. What about teeth? You like teeth, right? I got lots of teeth I could sell you.
Oh.
No thank you. Related question. Are you okay? Suppose you got me red-footed. Truthfully, haven't sold much art lately. I'm getting a bit worried about my bottom line. I get it. Occasionally, the free hand of the market becomes a prude once I stop fondling the free feed of the market.
Oh.
Ew, I hate hands. Your plight is universal, my friend. You're suffering from what many artists must suffer today. Being cringe? Well, that too, but I was gonna say being broke. Either way,
So
I can
true,
relate. Don't worry, Mr. Feet Artist. I can promise to press his awesome ideas will help you get rich. Just like my awesome idea about him throwing a boomerang up.
Yeah.
You don't feel like ruining Doug's image of you today. How can you help this artist turn his craft into a viable business? Yeah, anime full of waifus is pushing big boobs. Maybe tell waifus with pushing big feet and you fan service for strops. All the great failed artists eventually become teachers. It's time for this artist to become a teacher at Feet Academy.
Jeez, honestly, like both of them are good ideas, but
I like them.
waifus with disproportionately
Big feet?
That's
You fan
hard.
service
I
just
feel
dropped.
like there is
I
some
kinda
niche
fuck with
market
it.
for that.
I kind of fuck with it. Ooh, kinky. Has a certain logic to it. Back in the day, anime wasn't oversaturated with big titty waifus. Maybe
That's
everything
true.
changed when an ambitious artist who specialized in drawing boobs changed anime forever. This could be your chance to make history.
It
True.
could.
It's worth a try.
Oh, his eyes! His feet! Oh my god! Jesus Christ.
Oh no.
The artist
This is
draws,
good!
They're
This
so
is good!
draws a cute anime girl with disproportionately enormous feet.
Yes.
Yes! It's exactly
No.
what I never knew I needed. I don't know. Isn't it a bit weird?
No, it's not! Leave
Maybe
it.
the first time someone drew a big boob waifu would also look weird, but now everybody loves anime boobs. Right, and you can resist those tootsies. You could eat an omelet off those beautiful souls. I don't like the fact
Aw.
that the
Little
feet
those
text is
beautiful
related to
I
me
don't-
right now.
Like that.
I admit this girl has big step on me vibes.
Oh my
Yes!
god.
Yeah, you selling this? Dogs into feet.
Ain't no way he
Dogs
buying
into
that.
feet.
Ain't no way he's buying this
Sure,
shit.
if you're buying.
Please, do it.
See, you've
I
already got
told
new
you.
customer. Big feet waifu era, here we come. We'll high five with your feet as the thematic as is thematically appropriate. You gain 2 fun and lose 2 smarts.
Yay!
That was
That's
great.
God.
insane.
I'm gonna run
High
upstairs
five
real
is
quick
not
because
what
my
I
mother
would
wants me to find something. I will be right back. I have headphones, so I'll still be able to hear anything.
Nice,
I'll be
okay.
quick.
No,
You're
no,
good,
no,
you're good.
take your time.
Oh my god.
That I can't recover from that.
How are you liking the game so far?
It's the most unhinged one so far, it seems.
It is very unhinged.
You intend a panel on how to seamlessly add loot boxes to games. The short answer is that you shouldn't. This turns out to be an invaluable knowledge that makes you gain 2 smarts. Pay 10 monster tokens to open a mystery box with a bonus random amount of smarts. JK, wait, let me. What? Then you, April, and Omen meet with Liam to watch the panel he wants to see. Have you ever CC'd Richards? How emailing chains can boost your performance while working with big teams in the video game industry. Get hype? Hey Liam, do you know what would be better than watching this? Ripping off my other arm. Thank you for your input. Why'd you invite us to this, unique panel again?
How ironic.
Because it's terrible, and watching terrible things to complain about them is the oh my god! Intrinsic part of hipster culture. Whoa, this word is fighting my ass. Oh, and I'm supposed to complain? Did you not say so sooner? This panel sucks. I have more fun counting my scabs of my Iron Maiden for 100 years than I am right now. Is that so? If you hate my panel so much, let's see you come up and do it better. Oh, certainly. Come along, everyone. I think he was being rhetorical. That word cannot stop me because I don't know what that means. Come along. Owen drags April on stage. You come too because you're always down for shenanigans. Welcome to my... Oh my god, I'm in love. Hold on. Welcome to my panel,
No,
you
she's
pathetic
great.
worms. She's hot. Fuck. Today we're discussing what are we discussing again? I wasn't paying attention. Emails. Oh, I don't know what an email is. How about we beat up Liam for the crowd's entertainment instead? I'll save this. The history of email began in 1971 when the first email was sent by Ray Tomlinson.
Whatever.
Oh my god.
Now
wait,
you know what?
wait,
Kick
oh,
his
that
ass,
is-
Omen.
Wait, my connection. Okay.
There must be
Okay, I think it's
something other
fixed.
than violence. Oh, you back? Hello?
No,
Hello?
hold on. It's like really staticky for some reason. It's like really robotic.
No! No! Wait, which
Yeah,
part
let me
is-
just close out a few things.
Yeah, no worries. I just realized it's a shared chat. Yeah, it is Brittany.
Okay, I think it should be fixed now? Question mark?
Hello? Question mark? Question mark?
There we go. Yeah.
Slay! Okay, cool. There must be something other than violence you can do to save this stupid panel, but what? Reveal the secret email sign-offs that will make everyone in the email chain know who's the email boss. Racist sakes, do an escapism act where you try to escape an email chain while trapped in water?
Oh.
I feel like the first one would be fun, but this one is like silly. I feel like this one would get me what I want though. I'm gonna go with this one.
So mainstream.
Good call, Cinna. See? He wants
Yes.
me. Many people fall back on their tired sign-offs like, sincerely, best wishes, have a good day. So mainstream. Not me, look at my sign-off. It's super original and very polite. Dear merch distributor, thank you for fixing the goofy error. I know the one job I hired you for can be hard. It was a pleasure not to fire you today. Love and honks, April 1st. Love and honks. That was a polite sign-off. More polite than breaking his kneecaps, yes. I must say, this email shit seems soul-sucking and tedious. Yes, the crowd agrees in unison. Then why do you do it? If I had to sign off on emails, I would not mince words. Something like, if you ever contact me again, I will fucking kill you dead. The undefeatable omen. I mean, that would certainly send a message. Everyone in the audience decides to bring Omen's effective strategy into their own email chains. This results in massive layoffs in several industries. Look at your impact, Cinna. You gain 2 charm and lose -2 boldness for your unsolicited panel. Wait, no, I'm not bold.
I'm back. What did I miss?
Oh my god, welcome back.
Shopping time!
And I got so many people fired.
Great.
We
I'm
ruined
so
the
glad.
industries.
We get the shop.
I want to romance him.
Oh,
Can he be romanceable,
He's
please?
hot.
He is so hot.
Wait, what?
I want to romance the Shog.
Oh, yes.
So Seal, it's your turn.
Yeah. So Amonis doesn't have a license. Don't be shy. Pick a box before the cease and desist gets here. Oh god. Okay. Dull Daniel does nothing. Stats, but now they're people. Zodiac Thirst, Cosmic Office, Buff Bugs, Landmarks
of
of
Love.
Love, My Weird Little Village, and a Major Arcana No Mercy. I need to go through and like remember what they do.
If I remember
three,
correctly,
literally nothing.
there was
They're
one.
Okay, this is the safe option. Based on the stat icons from the popular video game Human Prom, they are said to have slight effects on people's stats. I think this is the one we don't want to happen because remember,
No, the one we don't want to happen is Landmarks in Love because I picked that one and then it stopped us from getting anything but the hotel stuff, which was creativity. So we couldn't get any child, which is why we lost so much.
That's so bad.
My luck was horrible and it affected everyone. I'm pretty sure Weird Little Village was fine. Oh, was that the one that made it so you wouldn't see them properly? Was that like No Mercy?
I can't remember which one it was.
I don't know, but it was funny.
There was I think it was My Weird Little Village.
Yeah.
I think this is the one I picked.
Oh yeah, the most friendly impact yourself or the ones you're trying to romance.
Yeah, it like switched all of the romanceables like PNGs into like something else when it was my turn. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like the clown was just a weird old man.
Though. It was super funny.
It really was because like everyone else had the normal forms and everything, so we got to see all the expressions and stuff. It was great.
Buff box maybe. Sound and video for some reason.
I kind of want to try Zodiac Thirst because I don't know what that one does.
It looks so cool.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
I
following.
kind of want to do either the Little Village again or like Buff Bugs.
Maybe you'll get something good if you go Little Village again.
Yeah, I kind of want to do that. Also, thank you for
Gambling.
the follow, Mikira. I'm doing My Weird Little Village. I want to see the figurine. I'm doing this for me. I forget, you can choose for someone else.
Oh wait, this is
so
what
much
the
for
hell?
following.
Oh,
little
acorn.
acorn.
Aw.
Changing
This
the
little
visual
acorn-
appearance.
Wait, that's cute.
Also, I can just mine now. Okay. Also, thank you for the follow, Mr. Swagger.
Am I Mr. Swagger here? Hello, Mr. Swagger.
Oh, he calls you doll face on the
Doll face. Hey,
Oh, okay. So I just realized that my name is Depresso the Jester. Because I forgot we haven't been checking what they are. Welcome back, Dollface.
Oh.
You know the drill.
How are you,
choose
Mr.
blindly and choose
I haven't been checking.
wisely. Okay.
Oh my god, the
Wait, what?
Wait, that
little
was me?
icon. That was you.
Yo, wait, that's actually my sign.
Average all your stats.
Wait, that's
Yeah?
terrifying. The fact that's actually my star sign is scary as shit.
Oh,
Wait, that's so
fun.
cool. What?
Average all your stats. Huh?
Okay. It averages
Okay, I'm
them
at
out.
11 for
Oh,
all of
that's
them. I'm
actually
actually
really
okay
good.
with this.
Wow. Cinna
Dolphins.
the clown. That's funny. If you click escape, you can like
Yeah, Cinna
see
the
the
clown.
thing, and it like gives you a different.
Oh, the clown. You know the
Yeah.
joke.
I want to see what seal is.
What the heck was mine? I want to know what mine
I
was.
don't know.
I want to
It
do
doesn't-
buff bugs.
And then do buff bugs. Do
Do
it.
buff bugs. Buff bugs.
Oh my god, I love your goofy little face.
It's so silly.
What'd you get? The
Death
death
buff.
buff.
Oh, wait, that's
Every
so
turn you.
cool.
No.
Oh my god. Oh, so you have to
That's
like click
horrible.
really fast.
You have to pick
Okay,
like
okay.
immediately.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm locked in. I'm locked in. I'm locked
That's
in.
unfortunate.
My reaction time is so good.
Yeah. Oh my god.
It was a
Where's
pleasure
the
to play.
Jesus.
Come back soon.
He's
I
so
need him.
fine for no reason.
Wow.
Day
Oh,
3.
yeah.
I'm the. Oh wait, no. Oh, Cinna's the comic relief now.
Say.
Oh my god, look at you!
Wait, you're so silly looking.
Depresso, you're the daring.
I'm the earring. Oh shit, it's me. You feel a surge of creative inspiration and rush to work on your comic. What genius will your pen create today? Brainstorm and find out. Okay,
Ooh.
what is the
metal
one
what?
feature you always look for when you buy a rope? Excuse me, hold on. We'll
metal
get to that. We'll get to that. Give me a minute. What is the one feature? In a minute. What is the one feature you will always look for when you buy a robot from a robot store? A metal cock that serves as a deadly projectile, or a fine sense of humor so typical of robots, free internet access, the vast knowledge of flower symbology.
Oh.
That one's actually kind of cute because I love flowers with meanings.
Yes,
But I
cute.
kind of want the deadly projectile metal cock.
The metal
Do it.
cock. It's needed.
Do
It's
it.
needed.
Yeah, we got
That's
bold for that.
crazy.
Hell yeah.
It's my turn. I'm the suave.
The swab.
What's the
Oh my
killer
God, I love
name
your
for a
face.
cat? Saturn, Douglas,
Big
fearsome
mustard.
king of the moon.
Big
Sun
mustard is
secret sweet
crazy.
Carol
I
or
love that.
Big mustard.
Big mustard is
Big
great.
mustard.
I'm gonna pick Big Mustard.
As you should.
love
Big
Big
mustard
Mustard.
deserves love.
Oh god. Big Mustard's so good.
How to get back to the con?
Get back to the con. Oh, Jinx! It's my turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I want? Do I just want more creativity? Something different though.
Oh, you can see what everything gets. You get fun at the board game, you get boldness at the lobby, you get smart at the stage.
Main stage?
Yeah. You get charm at the hold on.
I'm good on charm. I really
I'm
just
not.
wanna-
Why the fuck is my charm at 10? Is it averaging out all of my stats every time I get a new one?
No, I don't
That's
think so.
insane.
Will it?
Maybe, because that's all gone,
Oh.
all messed around now.
Wait, that's so weird.
I kind of fuck with it.
I either need smarts or creativity. I guess I'll just go with creativity again.
Yeah.
I'm like playing the game.
Hold up.
Playing the game.
Sit up while you're waiting for your turn. While you're waiting for your turn, you should probably think of where you want to go.
Oh,
You
I'm
can
locked
pick
in.
it.
I'm getting
You locked
smarts.
in? Okay, cool.
I'm locked in.
Okay,
I'm
okay,
locked
okay.
in. Wait, you're
Until
so
it-
cute.
I love you so
Oh
much.
my
That's
God,
adorable.
Look at me. You're killing your hotel room when suddenly a man dressed as a rat breaks in. Excuse me?
The Rat Man.
He runs around while yelling, "I'm the rat! I am the rat! Look at me, the rat!" And then he leaves as confusingly as he came.
Oh,
You call
no.
reception to complain. Ah, yes, that it seems it happens sometimes. Apologies. We can compensate you with +2 creativity. Thank you. Okay, you'll take that. Yes, I fucking will. You're staring at the bathroom, debating on either removing your complex cosplay or pissing yourself when Nico runs up to you.
I love it. wait. This will be the storyline. The plot line that you're following with his cosplay.
Hey,
Why is
Cinna, I got a
he-
hold of my buddy Sasha. You said
Hmm?
he's.
Oh no, I was talking to myself.
Okay.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. He said he's got time between his cosplay making workshops to fix my Joker costume. You should come with me to meet him, since this whole disaster is sort of your fault.
Oh,
Sorry.
fuck it.
Well, when they guilt trip you like that, how can you say no? You and Nico meet up with Sasha in the lobby. Okay, Nikki, let's
Wait.
get the damage. Let's see the damage.
Sasha kinda.
Wait.
Sasha
Actually,
kinda.
kind of fine. Romanceable, please.
I'm so upset because I love like the other like NPCs, the character designs. They're so
my God,
good.
yes.
And I'm like, and I can't romance.
I'm
you,
sad
like,
that
I can't
Damien
hit you
isn't
up.
like romanceable in this game.
Yeah, they swapped out the characters.
Kinda sad about that.
Okay. This was a Joker outfit? What the heck did you do to it? Once the mistakes were made.
How
That
horribly
much is
destroyed is it?
Horribly, apparently. I'm sorry, but I don't think there's anything I can do here. What? No, you have to fix it, Sasha. You have magic sewing fingers. My magic sewing fingers, and I appreciate that. But unless you want to cosplay a pile of dish rags, I'm afraid this costume is the cloth cause. Damn it. Don't give up, Nico.
Oh.
I keep paying G, I can't. Don't give up,
Meg,
Nico.
thank you for the
You're still the best
50s.
cosplayer at the con. Any
Thank you
of
for the
your other
50s.
cosplays could win the
Appreciate you.
Grand Prix.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
But I've worn those already. I gotta debut something new and fabulous if I even want to place. Well, would you like me to make you a new costume? It'd give me time to practice my freehand sewing anyway. You do that for me? Thank you, Sasha. Thank you. Nico picks Sasha up and twirls him around the room. Put me down, you hooligan, and hold still. I need to measure your bust and inseam.
Measure
Oh,
his
his little
tits.
blood!
Measure his tits.
Wait, his boobies.
He's boobies.
Sasha wraps their measure tape around Nico's chest, making them squirm ticklishly. Hey, this is hot or whatever, but we still need to finish Nico's cosplay.
Oh my God, the face.
Oh, crud. I'm
Oh, the
blanking. What
face.
sort of cosplay do you think would win the contest? Oh, fuck. Oh, God, there's so... Pancakes. No, I'm joking.
Pancakes.
You should evoke the fond memory of one's first fictional love. And let's be honest, for many con-goers, that'd be an over-sexualized video game character.
True.
People love morally great anti-heroes. Why don't you raise the bar and go for a no half measures morally bankrupt supervillain? Oh, maybe. The complexity of the outfit is what matters most, and no aesthetic is more visually complex than steampunk. Oh, thank you for the gifted subs, Mickey. Oh my gosh,
yo.
thank you.
Cheer
Thank you so much. I
hydrating.
really appreciate
Hype
it.
for
What
both
the
of
heck?
you.
Wow.
I love that the pancakes. It's always pancakes.
It's
Yeah,
always
pancakes.
pancakes.
Always pancakes.
It's always pancakes.
Always pancakes.
Always pancakes. I appreciate it.
I
I
just
really
go
do. Oh, that guy with the chest over his
Oh.
penis. Yeah!
That's the one that Elsie mentioned.
Over his penis.
I forgot that I get cat ears whenever I get gifted subs.
Wait, you get cat ears? It's so
I
cute.
get cat ears.
Wait, that's cute.
Oh my
Yeah.
god, shared hype train. That's so cute.
What should I? Yeah, shared hype train. Wait, I always
Yo!
forget about that.
I've never seen
I
a shared
love
hype train
that.
before.
Aw,
Oh,
thank
level
you.
4.
Thank
We all
you,
appreciate
Max.
it.
Hi.
Thank you so much.
I'm so tempted to
Thank
just go with pancakes.
you.
I've never seen. Yeah, I've never
Honestly, I
seen one
kind of
either.
want to
That's a
see
new thing.
Nico dressed up as a pancake. Oh yeah, it came out like very recently.
Wait, that'd be so fun.
Pancakes?
Pancakes.
Pancakes.
What's up to you?
Pancake.
He is your romance.
Oh god.
Yeah, sure, I don't know. The
Please
other
look
ones
at
are like...
this.
I
Oh
don't
no. Have we opened a can of worms we didn't want to open?
Oh,
What?
Nico's hyperfixation on,
Oh
on
god.
pancakes, possibly.
We've started something.
Yes!
Okay, cool. Thanks, Play.
Let's go! I didn't know you were a fellow pancake fan. See, this changes everything. I'm so sorry. I'm so glad you can't hear me because I actually don't. I'm not a big pancake fan. I'm a waffle girly.
Em,
Sorry.
you're amazing.
Oh,
Meg,
for
you're
good, I
amazing.
think.
Listen, in the South we got Waffle House, and that's been my shit since I was a fetus. So
We don't have waffle. Why did I struggle to say
I know,
Waffle
it's
House
so
so
sad.
much? Jesus.
That's so
it's not even
sad. I love
it's not
Waffle
even everywhere in the
House.
U.S. It's just a Southern thing. The North don't
Yeah,
got it.
All-Star
The-
Breakfast is
yeah.
goated.
it's so good.
All-Star Breakfast,
Choco,
yeah.
you say it? No, you cannot say it.
That
You
used to
get
be
one,
my
you
get one,
that used to
Choco.
be my meal every single time.
What did they say?
All-Star Breakfast. Oh, they have
Yeah,
a word they
it's-
like to say.
Oh.
I'm
It's
kind
like
of
that.
scared.
The All-Star Breakfast
can-
is like a waffle, bacon, hash browns, eggs,
Oh,
toast. You can switch
okay.
out your hash browns for like grits.
It's so fucking good.
You can also switch out bacon for like a sausage or anything like that.
You're welcome,
yeah, but-
Choco.
just the
Venus?
penis.
Venus.
Penis.
Venus. He gets allotted one Venus a day. One Venus a day.
One penis a day.
One
You
Venus
can't
a
be
day.
greedy.
Keep it greedy with your Venuses.
Yo.
Don't be greedy with your
You know what? I love that.
No, you're just funny. You're funny.
Should have keep it tight.
Shoulda
No,
keep it
because he
tight,
spams
ship.
Venus sometimes. It scares the huzz.
Oh,
Scares the huzz with too much penis.
Too much Venus.
you
The huzz
have
can't
too
handle the
much.
Venus.
No, you gotta
Just a little
be
bit of Venus. Just a little
be
bit.
casual.
You
with
couldn't
it,
have
man.
little
You gotta be
penis.
casual
No,
with
no
it.
big penis.
Little penis.
Choco, I'll give you two
Okay.
Venuses today.
Yo,
Oh,
double.
God.
Yo, penis has been upped.
That's been upped. Okay, come
The
with me. We
penis.
gotta get to the bottom of the
Okay.
pancake. You two have fun with that. I've got a workshop to teach. Oh.
I'm sick of y'all.
No, you only have one more
Yeah, you're
penis.
sick of us.
One more, one
Lost
more,
your
one more.
company. One more. Don't get greedy. Don't get greedy.
That'd be greedy.
His lost your company and you go to the nearest diner and each order a stack of pancakes. Oh, heck yeah. Bon appetit.
Aww.
No!
Wait, we can't eat them yet. First, you have to gaze deep into the eye of the pancake. You and Nico stared intently at the pancakes. You're not sure if you're making eye contact with the pancake or not, but you decide to trust the process. Have you entered the mind of the pancakes? How does it feel? Yeah, it feels sticky. Dig deeper. Come on, let's recite the 10-hour pancake mantra to get. Oh Lord, no.
Yo,
Oh,
yo.
what?
I love that.
Pancake, 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 pancake song. Even if you don't like it, pancakes, you'll have to sing along again.
Oh my god, wait, it's actually playing in the background.
Yo!
Wait, I want to hear it.
That's so creepy.
Shut the fuck up. That's
I
crazy.
hate that.
Well, I guess this is your
I
life.
love-
Choco,
You
see
gained
ya.
lost
Oh,
3
you lost
plus
charm.
1 from the pancake song, but you lose 1 charm, 1 boldness, 1 creativity. No.
Wait, what the fuck?
Comes the
My turn.
MVP.
I kind of. What am I this time? I'm the unafraid. Real.
Oh, you're unafraid.
Real and
Unafraid.
true.
Ooh,
Okay. Where do I want to go? Probably go get my smarts up so I can level that out. How to make your player character truly charismatic. You have a seat at the main stage where panelists looked at making interesting player characters. Apparently, they should be color coordinated, have a distinct personality, also have a cool name like Kratos, Luigi, or Depresso. You learn you'd make an awesome player character, and that self-knowledge equals 2 smarts. I love that. Grab some popcorn and make one last dash to the restroom because you, Liam Duggins. I swear this himbo was haunting me.
The dog, yeah, dog wants you.
And
He
Zoe,
wants
he
you.
wants me in every lifetime.
I
I'm
love
about
that
to
for
see
you.
the exclusive premiere of the new Rat Girl TV show.
Radical TV show.
I can't believe this little webcomic made it so big. Rat Girl is such an inspiration to girls like me who are also little freaks. The lights dim and the opening titles play Rat Girl, brought to you by Red Bull. Another humble webcomic sold out to a drink conglomerate. Is there no escape from the claws of capitalism?
No.
Sure, it won't be that bad. Kind of like spotting product places sometimes. It's like playing Where's Waldo. The show opens on a were-rat draining a can of Red Bull. Suddenly, the can transforms into a bottle of water. What?
What?
My Red Bull turned into disgusting water? Water lacks all the delicious chemicals that make Red Bull the superior beverage/engine fuel. Jesus. The camera pans over to a villain with faucets for hands. You're too late, rat girl. He cackles. No one will be caffeinated now that Big Aqua is here. You fiend, Reckle squeaks. Everyone needs a daily dose of productivity in a can. Haste my fury! Okay, I was wrong. This isn't nearly as fun as Where's Waldo.
He's
Yeah,
so
let's
cute.
fail. I'm thirsty anyway. Thirsty for a can of delicious, heart-pumping Red Bull. Why did you say that? Huh?
Red
Oh my
Bull.
god.
Oh.
I'm not sure
You
what
got a
came over
hoodie.
me. I guess marketing messes with your brain. Might be messing with Doug's fashion sense as well. How long have you been wearing a Red Bull brand jacket?
What the fuck?
What? I don't know where it came from. Looks kind of cool though, right? Not as cool as Liam's Red Bull neck tattoo. What is happening?
Shit.
God.
We're gonna tattoo without realizing. Shit.
Jesus.
I've never seen product placement this powerful. It's almost as powerful as Red Bull's guaranteed 5 hours of unstoppable energy.
Oh, Jesus.
Surrender to the magic taste of Red Bull. I mean, save us, Depresso. Think very non-advertiser friendly thoughts. I know a magic spell that makes brands go away. Repeat after me. I'm broke.
That's too true.
I like that.
Kinda real and true, and I love it. Am I telling you? You know what? I'm broke.
I'm broke.
I'm broke.
I'm broke.
Good idea, Channing goes, I'm broke, I'm broke, I'm broke. This isn't working. It's not enough to say it to get prove to the ad magic we're broke. We'll get your empty wallets and sad bank accounts. For some reason, it's not working. Wait, look, it's Liam's fault. He's loaded. What do you expect? I'm centuries old. You end up having assets appreciate over time, whether you know it or not. Yo?
Oh my god.
You'll never be safe from the addictive high-energy crave of Red Bull like this. Give me your phone. Full name can protest. Snatches up his phone and drains his funds to buy a really expensive horse.
What the hell?
What the hell? The advertisement is working. The advertisement magic is retreating. You deafening screech. The Red Bull branding starts vanishing from your clothes and from Liam's neck. Half an hour later, you're all outside, braiding a horse's luxuriant mane.
That was epic.
Dang, that was a close one. Thank goodness for Zoe and Depresso thinking on the spot. Okay, any plan that ends with me getting a horse is a good plan. I hate you all. You're sure Liam will come to appreciate his purchase in time. You gain 2 smarts for quick thinking, but lose 2 boldness for admitting you're broke.
Let's go.
Oh,
I feel that. I'm broke.
Oh shit, okay, I gotta.
oh God. Oh Jesus.
That was scary. That was so
You're the
scary.
mean now.
Okay. I just clicked whatever. You get a royal flush. Which would be great if one of your other players didn't play Zachrit, the commander of the Nether Galaxy. Lucky for you, you had a helmet of chaos up to your sleeve. You equip it on your royal flush and beat the shit out of Zachrit. Heck yeah! All this nonsense gambling at least too fun. Okay, wow, fun. I have plenty of fun. Afterwards, you meet up with Liam and April to go to Japanese kintsugi workshop. Fucking up things and haphazardly fixing them is your specialty, so this should be easy.
Greetings, my friends.
What the hell? Greetings, my friends.
Is
Do you
it
know
the
what
gold thing?
kintsugi is?
I thought
I
this
have
one
no
was
idea. I've never
fun.
seen this.
Yeah, I know this.
Oh. It's when you repair your broken pottery by... Fear not, I'll explain it. It is when you repair broken pottery by filling its cracks with lacquered gold. Bro, not him mansplaining to her.
I love that for him.
It can be seen as a metaphor for making a broken thing more beautiful than ever, much like one's own tarnished soul. I wish it was a metaphor for you shutting the fuck up.
Love that. Love it.
Also,
Love it.
what did you bring to do your kintsugi on? I brought this urn. Oh, you're gonna shatter it and repair an urn? What about the ashes? I'll mix those gold lacquer. I'll mix it into the gold lacquer base. It'll be both morbid and beautiful, just like clowns. Honk honk. Sometimes you alarm me, April. What? It's a cute idea. Besides, I'm sure Cinna brought something way weirder. Actually, you didn't bring anything at all. You weren't aware that you had to bring your own breakables. You gotta improve something, improvise something fast to get sneak. No time to think. Smash your arm with the emergency hammer until you finally have something broken with you. Your bank account. You've been broke for so long, it sounds like it could be beautiful fixing by adding. Yeah, my bank account!
Yeah.
You take the gold dust provided by the workshop and monthly coat your bank account on it. It's still going, since gold dust isn't particularly valuable in such small quantities. But soon, the gold starts to heal your finances, but making them whole again.
That's quite a
I see.
disruptive choice.
When treated with kitsugi, something broken can not only be fixed, but transform into something better than it began.
Something
Are we
bored.
seriously acting like wait, I'm healing my money?
Yeah.
From a workshop of arts.
Money, money, money.
Then again, my own bank account could use some
Duolingo?
kitsugi as well.
That's what I was
No, that
thinking.
literally
Yeah.
is Duolingo!
Duolingo looking ass.
Okay, I'm so glad we're all on the same page here.
I want to be the master kitsugi artist too. Never has a bank account look so busted yet so beautiful. You managed to move Liam to tears.
Love
You
that.
also managed about 200 bucks of gold dust before you get kicked from the workshop. Dinner's on you tonight.
Oh.
You get 2 smarts, yes! Yes!
let's go.
Aww.
Oh god.
Fuck the boldness.
Let's trade places. Maybe choose an
Everyone should.
object. Let's Cinna.
Oh. Everyone choose an object and say out loud to the other player before advancing.
Bowl.
A mouse.
Bowl, a mouse, and
I gotta think now. My turn to think.
Yelp.
Thunkers.
Hold on, I gotta.
Gotta get that big brain in.
A light stick. I don't know.
Light stick.
Hello,
Okay.
Ambi. Welcome in. Thank you for giving me the cafe order. Oh, light stick is good. Play your orders decided on based on which object would make the most entertaining trademark weapon. I'm sorry, a light stick is go crazy.
Yeah.
Let's go.
You first.
And then I had a bowl.
Okay.
You had a mouse.
A mouse.
I guess
feel
it
like they're,
depends
like,
on the
low-key the
character.
Yeah.
Wait, what did you say you had to press on?
A bowl.
Oh, a bowl.
Yeah.
A bowl or a...
A mouse.
Bowl,
Like a computer mouse.
Like food bowl.
Oh.
Mm.
Oh. Well, like,
Mm.
okay. So a bowl could be like... It could be, you know, like it kind of depending on like how big it is. It could use it as like a helmet or a shield. Yeah. But then like at the same time, a mouse could be kind of like
Like a flail, you
like,
know? Like a whatever.
yeah, like something to like
Oh.
fling. That
Mm.
could be cool.
It's like it I feel
We're
like it
cooking. We're
entirely-
cooking.
Yeah, we're making characters like giving up on the
Cinna,
game.
certified monster fucker. always.
We don't hide that.
There's always been the truth in this house.
I feel like, personally, I feel like mouse is better because I could see it for like for a video game character too. Like, I don't know. I feel like it fits. I feel like it'd be cool.
Oh yeah, like they have like I can see that.
Okay, I don't. Whatever.
Especially
I
because like
can't
you could
really-
just you could sell that as like an actual item.
That's true. That's like a merch, Lucky.
You know what would be good,
Mhm,
Betch? A bowl.
A bowl. A bowl.
So you're the routine rat.
Wait, what? The
It says
routine
it on
rat.
the
I
thing.
love that.
Routine rat.
Wait, I'm a rat.
You're a
The
rat.
routine rat.
I didn't see what I was.
Wait, what are you?
Oh
What are you
my
guys?
I don't remember.
I
need
don't
to
know.
know now.
It's on whose ever turn it is.
Yeah, it changes every time.
Routine. No wonder you and Jester are friends. True. This is why we get along. Alright, what are we picking? It should be random.
Jebba or is
Leave it to
Jebba is
chance.
just a different?
I feel like each one has a good argument.
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
mine's the most like on the nose basic.
Oh yeah.
But I feel like
I feel like
it's
Bull and
but it's
Mouse
both
gets like
of y'all
really
are
into
also
it.
creative.
Like, you have to think about them. Like, you actually have to think about ours. But the likes, like, you can just whack somebody with it, and I love it.
Yeah. Turn them into Hatsune Miku. Just smack them and it's Hatsune Miku.
Should we flip a coin? Your heads, I'm tails. Tails, you heads.
Hold up. Let me just get a coin flip. Okay, hold on.
I'll be
So,
tails.
you tails?
Mhm.
It was heads. I will like take a
Okay.
screenshot right now. It was heads.
No, I believe you. I believe you. If someone is lying about that, that'd be insane.
I wouldn't. Look, I respect the luck of the draw, right?
Oh, it's
If
my
it was
turn.
tails,
What am I? The meme.
The meme. On behalf
mean,
of Choco,
I
he
mean,
already
look
did
at
it,
you.
Moon.
Look at you. Who are you going for again? You're going for Nico.
I'm going for Nico.
Oh.
Okay, let's go. April. One day I will
So
try
cute.
again.
I
will be
a penis.
I will be a better partner, I promise. But for right now, we go with Nico. He's funny.
Oh my god, he's so
oh,
cute.
this one,
He's so
this
cute.
one, look at you. Look.
I did
Hold on,
it.
wait, I
Oh,
have to turn
wait.
off my overlay for this bit.
Wait, do your second one.
Do your second. Your penis.
That PNG.
What is gratitude sex?
Huh?
What? What? I don't even
Huh?
have that command. I don't know what's happening.
Okay. Anyway,
Okay.
what are you talking about?
Talk about shape shifting
Ooh.
hobbies or anime.
Ooh.
Oh. I kind of want to.
I
I
love
feel
that
like you
you
could tell me
look
something
like-
deep about shape shifting.
You look like you're just like his
You look
plush toy that he's brought along
That's
with
what I
him because he's
thought.
lonely.
That's what I thought. I'm like, what's the plushie? Oh wait, it's you.
Wait, stop! Like those K-pop plushie photos when they like eat food
Yes.
and they
Yes.
that's me.
That's him. It's him with
Great,
you.
like fuck the moon. Moon has never fucked the one time.
God.
Oh my god.
What is happening?
I don't know what
My
to
check
pick.
is a
I
little
like all
silly.
of these. I don't know what to pick. I like all of these options.
It's like a man.
I feel like shapeshifting or anime would be fun. New command, everyone.
I feel like I kind of want to learn about shape-shifting and why he
I
doesn't
feel like he's gonna end up opening
Yeah.
up something about shapeshifting.
That's
like, some
exactly-
more or
Yeah, we want
something.
him to open
That's
up
so
because
good.
you get
I
him to
want
open
that.
up. You guys can like you can probably get laid
Get
this time.
closer.
God, okay. Oh, what about
You got
it?
this.
Well, I don't know. How come you don't shapeshift? Why is that a tongue twister? Isn't it like
Yeah.
a mimic's main thing? Alright, yes, it totally is. Then, is that why... Oh, then is it that you can't? It's okay if you'd rather not talk about this. What? No, it's totally fine. Of course I can shapeshift. Then why don't you? Wouldn't it be good for cosplay and all that? Oh, his little face was so cute.
Aww.
I guess
He's so
I guess,
cute.
but it would feel like cheating, you know? Ah, I could do it. I could just do
Yo!
this. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh god! Oh wow. But that's no fun. I'd much prefer to transform with acting and convincing cosplay.
Doesn't he
Aw.
struggle to get into character? Isn't it like a character point for him? He can't get into character.
I don't know.
What the f-
Well, I'm not.
Oh,
when I'm not
yeah.
cosplaying, I do shapeshift sometimes. Oh, wait, that's cute.
That's so cute.
I'm Nico. Or am I?
Ew.
Oh, but like, who am I out of cosplay? I mean, feels like something that's in constant flux.
Yo,
There's
hey,
no.
Hey!
Oh my god.
Like it's 100% me 24/7. Oh my god.
excuse me.
Yeah, I think I get it. Would you say shape and identity are fluid things to you? Exactly. I don't shapeshift that often because I just like this shape better than any others. At least for now.
I like it.
Oh, I like this shape.
I like it.
It's a good one, isn't it? Who would have thought
Aw.
there's this much to Nico's is elusive shapeshifting? They talk about the topic a bit more. It's great to learn about this side of them.
I'm gonna sit the hardest.
Aww.
Okay.
That's cute. I
This
was
is
gonna include
adorable.
Nor.
I'm just talking to Zoe.
Oh,
She's so cute.
I love
Look where she
me.
sits.
The eye on the hip? Wait, I didn't notice that.
Oh my god, I didn't
That's
notice
so
it
cool.
either. Oh, that's probably the leg mouth that they were talking about, so I got to look at her butt.
Oh no.
Oh, mom. I see.
Finding what's next. Because I want to know what's next for her. What is she doing? What a question. I just thought with Liam prom and all, I can only imagine your future must be looking bright. Yeah, it's wild. It was a silly little idea I had, right? Almost like a creative exercise. Can I turn the not so popular Liam to the center of a compelling story? And then, kaboom! Liam's everywhere. Totally. The initial scope of this idea was so small, and now the sky's the limit. Started as a fanfic with some art to depict the Liams, but lately my inbox has been brimming with opportunities of all sorts. Plushies, a tabletop role-playing games at Liam Academy, multiple offers to turn Liam Prom into a video game. Oh, so yes to everything. Find all the deals. Next stop, Liam Prom Pizza Restaurant and Liam-themed lingerie.
That's funny.
That'd be hilarious, wouldn't it? But I'm always a bit wary. The bigger you become and the more stuff you sign, the more you gotta abide by what others expect from you. Makes me think of April. Sometimes I worry about her. With the whole contract thing, always having to be camera ready. I wonder if the fame is that important in the end. It took me eons to find my truth, so it's a shame to see someone who's contractually obligated not to show theirs.
Yeah.
When you put it like that, of course, it's not the same. It's gotta be 10 times harder when you are your own brand, like how it is for April. When we talk to her, it feels like you could help each other out since you're going through stuff that's similar in some ways. You're right. Maybe I can do that later. Just that I wanted to talk to you too. I really value your perspective. That means a lot, really.
Cute.
So you spent some hours on this, helping Zoe surmise that she really wants, and the best part's where are we in the game? Okay, we still got a bit left until, so we're not done yet. I'm worried. I spent some hours helping Zoe surmise what she really wants, and the best parts of all these opportunities she's been given.
Anyone need hand sanitizer?
Oh,
Aww.
so freaking cute.
Cute.
I know.
That was super wholesome. What the heck?
Being the inspiration for Liam Prom. I kind of want to know about that.
Yeah.
Well, hi, G. Thank you. I hope your stream went well.
Oh my gosh,
What a
Alicia.
thing, eh?
Happy lurking.
The artist become the muse. I guess if you live long enough, there's no surprise someone will end up telling the story of you. And the story of Liam is one of dozens of Liams throughout the lives while attending Liam Academy. It is a choice, certainly. It's clear that Zoe and I have quite different understandings on what constitutes art. But I have chosen not to be bothered too much by her opinions, my opinions of her work. That's nice of you. I would never want to be the one cutting off the wings of an artist. Are your visions really that? Are your visions that different, really? Wait, your visions that different, really? Okay. Sure, Liam Prom falls into a very different category than your conceptual poetry. But is it that different from, let's say, Two Guys, One Salad? Huh?
Oh.
Oh, you got me there. In any case, I really appreciate this time. Zoe consulted me first to see if I was okay with their project idea. What's your favorite part of it? You'll laugh at how Liam this sounds, but I think it's her asking me about me and, like, really listening. She has to milk dozens of Liams out of me, right? She has to milk dozens of Liams? So, anyways.
Sorry, that was way too
He was
funny.
not rocking with
Oh.
that.
Okay, I was thinking the same thing, but I was like, oh, no, say shit.
I was trying not to laugh, but then I heard you laughing, and I was like, "Fuck!"
No, I'm sorry. It's really childish,
No,
but I
it's
get
beautiful, it's
really,
beautiful, it's
I
awesome.
giggle so much
It's
at childish
awesome.
shit.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I respect it. I said, do so. Just sit down and interview me for hours. Of course, we've known each other for a couple years now, but I think, as silly as it is, Liam Prom has brought us closer. I'm glad to hear that, Liam. I guess we all feel like we all like to feel seen, don't we? It's a nice warm feeling, yes? You two share some quiet time, maybe because you're both feeling that nice warm feeling in him too. Aw, he's so cute.
Day
Cute
4.
dreams.
Time for comic. Comic
Oh
time.
my god, I can't believe we're
Oh my
almost
god,
done.
oh
What the heck? Cinna
Oh my
the
god,
meat.
I keep seeing a little guy.
Oh
It's
my
almost
God,
time to
fancy.
dine a date. But he's just sitting there. Why does he have like
I
the
just
little
dare.
worried face?
Maybe because it's really hot,
he's
man.
like, he's like,
Ugh.
That
How
is
much
really,
longer
really
do I have
hot.
to be this PNT, man? Oh god.
it's your chance to, for one final brainstorming session to polish it. Oh shit. What's a foolproof way to quickly annoy everyone at the city council meeting? Show off your walrus impression? Attempt to seduce the mayor? Debut your stand-up comedy? Voice your very knowledgeable opinions on mustard yet again. Yeah, mustard!
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 Oh yeah, it's my turn. Okay, okay. What's the
what's
one
your thing,
new
Sarah?
piece
Camilla,
of
the s'more?
technology? Oh no, what is my thing? The smart. I am the smart.
Very smart.
I'm so smart.
Smart.
I'm so smart. Okay. What's the one new piece of technology that makes you yearn for the future to come? Bowel control automation system, perception
Right.
of aesthetics
What?
processor, AI powered underwear, or eyebrow
No.
management system.
What the fuck?
I kind of what is what? I don't know what is
Good.
AI powered underwear.
What would
Like,
that
I
do?
want to understand, like, what would the functions be?
I don't know, like it tells you when you need to
purpose?
piss or shit or something, like it can sense it, I don't know.
This is the optimal time to release your.
This is the optimal time to release your bladder and bowels. Go
Oh,
now.
God. Also, welcome in nugget.
Excrement is peak. I don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know. It's a diaper that
So a
cleans
diaper
itself.
that cleans itself.
I don't think it would clean itself. I think
really
it just
helpful
tells
for
you
pee-pee.
when to shit.
I think so.
I don't know, man.
I feel like AI powered underwear would be great for like old people so that the nurses can be like, hey, they shit themselves again. You know?
You don't gotta worry about it.
Or this.
It's
This is also
easier
good
to
for
take.
old people.
Bed.
But I want to do the perception of aesthetics processor.
Oh, creativity!
Yo!
go.
Yo!
Let's get
I
back
get
to
back
the
to the
con.
con.
My turn!
This
Okay.
is not good
I
marketing.
don't know why I said that so animated.
My turn! Does it work like a Siri?
Does it work? Hey, underwear. Oh, God, where do I want to go? I could go kind of anywhere, honestly.
I want to go to the hotel because it's the I think it's the only place one of the only places I haven't been.
Okay. I kind of want to either go to the community or to the merge hall again. Does anybody want to go to either of those?
No, I wonder.
I just realized my charm is in the depths, so I might actually go to the Artist Valley instead of the hotel. Because I need to get my charm back up.
Oh wait, but what if Nico's at the hotel again?
Yeah, go to the hotel. Unless Cinna wants to go to the hotel.
Oh no, I want to go to the panel thing panel, please.
Okay, so the stage.
Oh, the
okay.
main stage. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
main stage.
Okay, so I want to go to Artist Alley.
Oh, you want to go to Artist Alley?
Yeah,
Okay.
because I want to get my charm up. He's probably gonna be there regardless. I think they just give you one. So
Should I go lobby?
maybe.
I haven't been to the lobby.
I kind of want to see him playing video. Okay. Oh my god.
You're so cute.
I love this.
I
love him. It looks so stupid.
He's so goofy. I love it.
Okay, you decide to walk around the lobby, which is the most intimidating activity at the con for anyone who's not a social butterfly. Is it? Is it? You just walk. You don't have to socialize.
Yeah, but people know
No.
you exist, and that's a problem.
Man,
So spooky.
I'm like I'm very much like an ambivert. It really like depends. Like I'm either like very social or not social, and like I don't know, man. Cons, I just move at a con.
There was a con
know,
I
I
went
love
to
it.
once. This con I went to once, and I was just like so socially drained that I was terrified of the walk, like the 2-minute walk to the convention center from the hotel I was staying in. I was just like, please don't look at me, don't like think I exist, because I was in full cosplay, like walking
Oh,
down the
that's so
streets of
nice,
like
yeah. But
I
then
think
they
it was
get to think
Melbourne.
everybody around you is wearing cosplay too.
Oh yeah, I was like full cosplay. It was like in Melbourne. I think it was.
I can see
PAX
that. I don't
Australia.
cosplay, so it's like much more chill for me. I just
Yeah.
wear like all my
Yeah.
anime shirts and stuff.
Thankfully, it was like
Like, this
cosplay
last
that no
con that I
one
went
knew,
to?
so I was like I mean, it sucked that no one knew it, but I was like really glad that no one knew it because they didn't ask me for photos, and holy shit, that was the best thing. So I just got to go around. I got to ask people for photos and stuff. Like when I was like when I was
That's
like willing to go
fun.
do that, but it was great. I loved it.
I see. Alrighty. Some random people ask you to take a photo. Talking about taking pictures.
But yeah.
Some random people ask you to take a pic of them. Oh, of them. You're forced to push people around to actually move. You even say "bless you" to someone who sneezed. Look at you socializing. Here, have
Oh,
fun
look
with
at that.
boldness. I socialized. Is everyone proud of me? Later, you finally got into that fucking pancake song. You finally got that pancake song out of your head when Nico comes around the corner and puts it right back in. You will have to sing along.
Oh my god, I love him.
Or am I?
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm scared. What the
His
fuck?
costume is crazy.
I love his
bro.
whipped
Ones with
cream
the
and cherry
nips.
nipples.
The nips.
Crazy.
I know.
Looks
I'm
it-
scared.
It's
He
great.
also got his unfair pancake discrimination and got over his unfair pancake discrimination and finished my cosplay. Don't I look delicious? You
No.
sure do. I know just what I want for breakfast. A
Oh.
big buttery Nico.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks, but I didn't just come here to show off. I need your help deciding what my act should be for the talent portion of
Oh,
the cosplay
God.
Grand Prix. I'm flattered, but are you sure you want my help after what happened last time? Yep, I still trust you wholeheartedly, even though you've given me no reason to do so. Cool.
Aw.
Oh.
I assume it's because I'm developing feelings for you.
Oh.
Yo, whoa,
Oh,
he's out there with
okay.
it.
Whoa, what the heck? What the heck? At least maybe this means I. at
You
least
can't
will
just
get
say that.
I will laugh so hard if you get rejected after this.
Oh no, I would be so sad. You are? Well, yeah, wasn't it obvious? I'm sharing my love of cosplay with you. That's basically second base for me. Oh, like
Oh.
Everyone's second base is
That's
so,
so
low.
cute.
So do you have any ideas for what my talent act could be? We have all the time in the world to think of something.
Aww.
Assuming all the time in the world is less than 24 hours, because that's when the
Okay.
contest starts.
Never mind.
Oh.
Time is of the essence. What talent should Nico perform to win the cosplay Grand Prix? Everybody likes pancake eating contests. What if people competed to eat Nico? I mean, look at them.
Oh. Oh no.
Removal
Pancakes
of
are
Nico's
best eaten boneless. Removal of Nico's bones.
Oh.
Those are the eating
No, I don't think we
contests,
should do
and
that.
you should win because
my-
you eat Nico best.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, I don't. Om nom nom, bitch. I don't know.
So fun.
Yeah, he liked that. He liked that.
Oh well, I was really into boar, but I guess that'll get me to win. No, I was saying people could eat pancakes off of you, not eat you. Not eat you. Oh, phew. Not that I was trying to kick shame, but you know, I'd like to live long enough to get the first place trophy.
He's so precious.
I love that.
God, he's so dumb. I love it. The next day, Nico makes their yummy appearance at the cosplay contest. You help by providing a juicy remix for them to walk
Oh,
out.
Remember
no.
me? I'm Nico.
Good morning,
Oh,
everybody.
no.
Who wants a bite of my sweet sticky pancake pie?
Is this the pancake song? Okay, I'm about to say.
It is the pancake song.
It's a remix of the pancake song.
Pancake.
I love that, actually.
Pancake.
God. They start twerking, spraying butter and syrup everywhere with their beautiful wooden butt.
Oh.
As expected, the audience falls upon Nico with forks and knives. You long to join them, but no, you must restrain yourself.
Why does the music sound sexual?
It's
It
so
does,
sexual.
doesn't it? You're here to support Nico,
Pancake.
not lick syrup off their abs, but maybe you can ask them to wear this cosplay again in a more private setting.
Love
Oh,
that,
hell
love it.
no.
Fuck the pancake man. Pancake.
Seal, snap out of it. I won the contest. I'm so happy. I knew being a celeb for breakfast foods would come in handy someday.
He's
That's
so
right,
real.
baby.
I love it.
He's so real.
Hooray, you gained plus 2 bond for being a little breakfast slut yourself. Pancakes always win.
Let's show him how it's done.
We got an
Oh my God,
achievement
I
for
got an
that.
achievement.
Pancakes are
Yummy, yummy,
sexy.
yummy. You got it's a meal. It's a meal.
Okay, so do you know where you're going? So you're going straight to main stage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, you should have your butt at like your mouse.
Yeah, have it there ready.
Yes, you're so
Yeah,
smart.
yeah.
Near the merch hall, you find a gacha shop. You put in a coin, you get a real buffed up. Random, but cool. You put another coin, you open the gacha, and there's a letter. Please help us. We buffed ducks are imprisoned in these balls where the gacha master says where you go. It all began when... And you're already bored. You get on the gacha ball, and it's another buffed duck. Cool. Take 2 charms. Buffed ducks.
Buff duck.
Later, you put on your nicest clothes and meet Zoe at the main ballroom. You have +1 to the exclusive VIP cocktail party, and the cons featured guests.
The press will check your thing.
What am
title.
The smart ass. She leads you into a room filled with moneyed bigwigs, chatting over cocktails. Well, if it isn't our girl of the moment. Hi, have we met before? No need, girl. We know your whole deal and we love it. We're just talking about your, what was it? A comic book? Liam prom? It does have a few illustrations, but it's actually a fanfic. Just so you don't have to tell me, I'm a fan. You know, my friend and I know a lot of people in the business. We could totally hook you up. Yeah, you need connections, baby. You're nothing without connections. I don't like these people.
These feel.
They're
This
They
creepy.
feels
feel
scammy.
wrong.
It does.
I think I'm fine. Shh, listen. You can tell us. How much are you making with that comic book of yours? 1K, 2K, also. Got a $20 bill?
Fuck.
Yeah. Anyway, we can totally help you get some engagement going. In 3 months, you'll be making 20K at least. Okay. Want some of this? Don't be shy. Zoe looks at you pleadingly. She clearly wants to ditch these dull, condescending jokes, but she doesn't know how to do it politely. That means you need to free her because that's what possums are for. Help Zoe get out of this. My options are...
Yeah.
Hold up your wine glass and improvise a toast so long that it buys Zoe time to escape. You proactively and sort of trapped her in the convention center a month ago. Okay, so you trick these balls into standing on it. Do I do that?
I fuck with that, Loki.
I fuck with it
Yeah.
too. Let's do it. Great idea. I totally owe you one. Oh, but hey, you're taking notes. This advice will be crucial to increase your brand visibility, you know? Yeah, totally. Let's go somewhere comfier for discussion. Talking for hours after all. Why don't you stand over there? Looks like a great way cozier spot. Yeah? No, it's into the square on the floor that looks like a trapdoor. Why? Would you rather stand in the comfy wooden door? I know I would. Why did you stand there? Because if you rooted me to take the best standing seat in the house. Come on, don't you want to stand on the smooth, supple surface of... What kind of wood would you say it is? Wood, pine, cedar... That was mahogany.
Mahogany!
I love the word
Lustrous.
mahogany. That's not sorry.
Okay, that was mahogany. Look at this lustrous sheen
It's
under
so
the
fun
lights.
to say.
Really? I think the grain pattern more closely resembles sandalwood. Actually, particle board. You're a cheap son of a bitch. Oh my god, now they're gonna bore us into thing about wood. Pull the lever. You said
Well,
about
the
lever?
lever.
You pull the enormous levers these
Oh my
douchebags
God, the
wouldn't
sound.
notice if they weren't so entranced by the sound of their own voices. At least now they can focus on the 20-foot free fall into the pit you dug several weeks ago. How the fuck did I get out of
Jesus.
that? God, depressing. That's a deep hole. Always like the woman with digging skills. You're more than happy to get
Oh,
laid for your love of. You gain 2 smarts, but I lose 2 charm. I lost charm for
What's
nothing.
charm from that?
I
But
love
you,
that.
like,
Got my
low-key
job.
regrets that. How did you lose
Love it.
charm for that?
I
Oh, get
I don't
ready.
know.
Click it.
Yo, you
Nice,
did it.
nice.
Okay. Oh, so
Best
fast.
I
anime
don't think you even
butts.
lost
Oh, fuck.
anything. It was so fast.
That was so fast. I'm so good. Some of the choices are intriguing. I mean, sure. Mecha robots technically have big asses. Whoa. By
I
the end of
guess
the, by the end, you've learned more about the panelist fetishes than anime. But the ass-centric knowledge grants you 2 smarts.
Oh wait, what is your
Later,
thing
you're
say?
standing.
Yeah, what did you say?
Oh, listen.
The jester. I
The
had
Jester.
that one
Wait,
for
where's
you.
Jester John? Hi, Jester John, if you're here. Later, you're standing in front of Liam's hotel door. He promised you an
WS. What?
unforgettable evening, so you're giddy with anxiety, excitement, and horny.
Ready for a crushing defeat.
Oh, brother, he's gonna like yap to me. Ah, you made it. I hope you got energy to spare. I just set up the game, brother. Of course. Wait, we're playing a board game? Heh, this is no regular tabletop game. It's Tinder Buttons, this year's winner at the Erotic Board Game Awards. Oh. That sounds slightly more promising. You sit at the table and throw the dice, eager to get to the good part. Lick and ear. Ready or not, here I come. No. You can't perform sexy actions yet. As per the instruction manual, you must take a
Oh my god, wait.
conditions-
You know this is an
conditions card.
actual thing, right?
Like this whole, like, you have to do like this whole thing?
That's like that's an actual thing that there is actually dice that you roll and it tells you sexual positions and things to do.
Yeah, well, I've seen that before, but like the
Yeah.
conditions card is crazy.
I
Yeah,
know
no,
the
like-
conditions card the thing, but I know the dice.
That's
Oh, man, I
crazy.
did this.
The dice are real though.
Yeah.
Oh.
Don't ask me about that. Anyway.
Hey yo?
Hey,
I'm
yo.
asking. I'm kidding. You reluctantly take one and read it. Earn 30 sexy coins to perform your assigned sexy action. That's so lame. You spend the next 15 minutes earning sexy coins. It involves astoundingly
Aw.
unerotic amounts of resource management and sometimes sit in sex jail. Alright, my turn. My erotic challenge says, find your sex challenge's favorite erogenous zone. Oh. Finally, how are we gonna go about that? Trial and
Yeah, they're
error?
not usually fuzzy. You can get fuzzy ones, or you can get like foam ones that are like big.
The fuzzy ones are cute.
They are.
Ready.
I love fuzzy dice.
Yes.
Ah, good one. But your intimacy meter is too low. I need at least 3 confession points before you tell me. What? There's no need. I can tell you now. Ah, sweet Cinna. It's clear the instructions have gone over your head. Let me go over them slowly this time. Oh my
Oh
god.
god.
You're so not immediately as Liam embarks to a thorough explanation of this erotic game. It can only be described as the most bizarre foreplay you've ever witnessed. There's only one way out of this into Liam's heart. Beat this game to get sexy and prove your bona fide board game skills. Okay, I have to lock in. This feels like punishment, which means Liam probably gave you a safe word while explaining the rules. Whack your brain into remembering it so you can move on to a different activity. Subvert the rules by ending the game unexpectedly. eat all the game pieces to show what? Oh my
Look at how
god!
much you can swallow.
Okay, I feel like he's not gonna fuck with that, so I have to get it
yeah, I
the
was
first one.
thinking that too.
He's not gonna fuck with it, even if it's funny.
Surely he'd fuck with
Yeah.
Yeah. You close your eyes and focus, trying to snatch back some of Liam's words from your hazy memories. So you take a touch card and pay 2 sexy coins. Come on, you can do this. But you also lose a arousal bonus. Nothing is you're drawing a blank. You have to do the second best thing, which is shouting out random nonsense Liam could use as a safe word. Blowtorch!
What?
What? Papaya! Are you okay? Honeycomb, honeycomb! Ooh, I see. You're trying to distract me while my foreplay timer runs out. Nice strategy, Cinna, but you can't fool me. Bullseye!
Bullseye.
Sure. Wait, how'd you know? What? Liam turns over the card with the word poolside written on it. I had a full pool strategy to win in 2 turns, but alas, you guessed my fantasy sex spot, which is an automatic win. What?
You've earned my respect.
Aw.
Poolside!
Hey, yo.
Hey!
I mean,
can't
like,
believe
I
you
see
attacked-
it.
The poolside is like, I would expect that from him. I was thinking something crazy.
I mean, like, he's thousands of years old. I would assume he has his own pool that he could fuck in.
Yeah, let's go. Anyways, rematch? No. You rush to place your hand over his. I have a better idea. Wait, hold on. Oh my god, formidable LG! Thank you for the 3 mods. Thank you. Disaster reported. You gained 2 smarts because of your big brain tactics, and you finally turned this game into actual sex. But let's do creativity. Right,
I think 2 of us are getting laid, at least. I don't know about Seal.
Monster prom, more like
Never
monster.
me.
Oh,
Never me.
Okay, go.
Oh, I'm party animal.
Love
Oh,
that. Go
so
love
Seal
Nico.
party
Go
animal
love
Party
Nico.
animal.
Go love him.
Ego is the only option. It's the only option.
Yes.
Yeah.
Bro, what's the result? Hi,
Please don't
Jordy.
get rejected. That would be
in.
so sad.
Oh, you're the big thinker, Depresso.
Big thinker. Is it because my smarts? Yeah, it's because my smarts is the highest.
Oh.
That actually makes so much sense.
Oh, that's why mine was like.
Oh,
the
it goes with
partier, 'cause
what
of
we-
fun.
Yeah.
Oh.
Wait, so is it gonna choose smarts or fun for Cinna? Because they're
That's true.
Oh, We'll,
I'm like-
we'll see. We'll see.
Oh.
On after party? Yes. Please come with me.
Guess what I learned happened today. Wait,
And
what
the
happened?
You
predictable.
Jordy?
are the predictable.
Not predictable.
Oh, maybe it's because
Huh.
you're smart and fun. I don't know.
Yeah.
Please.
Okay, let's see. Oh, the comic.
Okay.
Oh god, I
Finally,
forgot
the
about
art
this.
gang gathers round to pull all the pieces of your greatest masterpiece together. Time to see what the Time to see the fruits of your labor.
Oh.
Yo.
Wait. School.
Space.
Is that
heist.
Calculesta?
Huh?
The TV, is that
Okay, what?
Calculesta?
Town. Our AC also got moved. What the fuck? Are you okay, Jordy?
Oh Jesus.
Damn.
I hope you're okay.
Stay safe, King. Stay safe.
Yes, stay safe.
Oh my goodness. Space Heist is a comic about a heist in space. Follows a charismatic rag team of outlaws with a unique set of skills. Faith, a hacker who can do magic with a keyboard. She evades the law because she's
it is!
Oh. I love
Susan, a
this.
seasoned spaceship pilot who desperately needs the money to buy the rights to the letter W. Oh, you don't even have it. You need the money for it.
No, I'm
Oh, you were right about Calculester.
I'm so
A-
smart.
android
He
who
was
wants
my
to learn all
favorite.
about to learn all about the thrills of life. His tech provides a valuable resource to this adventure. A metal clock that also
Yes.
I love Calculus' metal cock.
And the band's leader, Valerie, she's a space pirate with a thirst for money and a score to settle. Together, they will aim for the one thing no one in the galaxy has ever dared to steal the big mustard reserve.
The big mustard!
God damn it, Calculaster, I told you not to voice your opinions on mustard. I had to take the risk, for I wanted to experience the thrills of life. Stop fighting. I managed to hack into their perception of aesthetic. That'll keep them busy. Come on, you two, hop in here. This station is about to explode. Fasten your seatbelts. Never again, Calculaster. I can't make any promises, for I am programmed to live. Our heroes escaped by the skin of their teeth, but by blowing up the space station, could they have also blown their cover?
Sorry,
To
I
be
was just sound
continued.
effects.
Oh, you're good. The con after party is oh god, it's starting.
Oh, let's
Oh
go!
god. Oh god, okay. Okay. Oh shit. Okay. You finally gather your courage and ask your tantalizing tentacle friend Zoe to go to the con after party with you. You want to go to the party with me? That's funny. Why?
This
Because I actually wrote a what a fanfic this morning. We went to the party together. We were both cosplaying. When the party was over, we came back here and took our cosplays. And
Oh?
no spoilers allowed. Does that mean I'm going to experience it?
Yo. Oh,
I didn't experience it.
You guys are
After
so
party was
cute.
fabulous. So I brought a notebook and showed you some new fanfic ideas she's been cooking up. Even the outlines of such magnificent over that can't get you all hot and bothered. So you notice you have to take you out back and relieve your literary.
Oh.
Who you're reading could be so hands-on.
Oh.
Yo.
I didn't get a special ending.
Oh. You finally gathered the courage to ask one sexy purple gummy bear to the con after party with you. A date to the after party, you say. Allow me to read. Oh no! Is it my
This is good. I feel it.
Okay, yours is the evening. I'd be happy to join. Let's go.
Your little giggle was just so cute.
I love him so much.
He's the best.
Tickles my oh yo
Yo.
Whoa.
Yo.
It's a rough draft, okay.
Yowie is not
Oh my god, they're so cute.
He's adorable.
That's super cute.
You didn't expect Liam to be such a hit on the dance floor, but that night he showed you the dance is one of his greatest art forms. Closely followed by the art of having really long.
We all fucking. I'm gonna cry
You're
so
so
hard
good.
if Seal gets
Just
rejected.
magnifique.
So many feet.
Let's
Oh
go.
my
Let's
God.
go.
So many feet.
I am the meme. Okay. You finally gather your courage and ask the most delicious cake you know.
talking.
Of course I'll go to the party with you. It's the least I could do. Without you, I never would have won the cosplay Grand Prix. Do you think the DJ will play the 10-hour rendition of the pancake song if I ask? Maybe, but don't be offended if it clears the dance floor. That's fine. It gives me more room to do my pancake twerk. Want to see it?
Oh.
Yes, please.
Oh my god. Hey yo.
You got the special ending. Hey yo.
This is crazy.
Wow, I went to getting rejected to getting this. That's great.
Yeah, you went from getting
Amazing.
rejected to getting special ending.
You deserve it. Actually,
afterwards, just the way you like it. Nico really is the most important girl of the day.
no, I need some Nico in my life.
One new
my
secret
God.
ending.
That was so good.
Really? Have
Wow.
2 secret endings out of 35.
That's so good.
Jesus.
That was amazing.
Oh my gosh, that
Oh
was
yeah,
so
and the
good.
end credits.
Oh
Okay.
yeah.
Before we knew it.
Before we knew it. Oh, you go ahead.
Oh, you
Is
guys go
Cinna
ahead.
doing it?
Yeah, okay. It was just
Okay.
4 days, but I swear it felt like an entire lifetime. All sorts of misadventure took place, entire friendships blossomed, and ourselves changed as people. The idea of going back to our day-to-day lives made us feel a bit disoriented. Promises were made of not growing apart, of meeting again soon. Still, we would lie if we said we didn't feel a bit sad to leave all that behind. But as each of us went our own ways, we realized that wherever we went, these people would be there with us. And with that came a truth to this day we hold close to our hearts. That no matter where we're going, no matter where we are, we belong. It is a thought that gives us warmth and that makes us feel once again young and unafraid. It reminds us that even as years go by, we will always be ready to start. Aw, so cute!
Nice.
Wow!
I still really love this game. I love it.
This game is
I love
it.
its replayability. It's so crazy good.
We unlocked a new plot
It's so
line.
freaking funny. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That's crazy.
How
How many
did you like
endings have
it,
you guys
Cinna?
got?
We can
Oh,
now
I
call
liked it.
Suzanne. What?
I fucking loved it.
Look, the new outfit for Liam. A new outfit for Zoe.
Ayo.
New comic genres. Hold on, wait. Art
Two
gallery.
plot lines.
Hold on, I gotta see
Sawyer.
this.
Wait, where do I see the
Oh,
outfits?
this ending is the same. I'm gonna skip it. Skip it.
Oh my god, I forgot about
Let's
Oben's
see.
secret ending. Holy shit.
You cannot call
cute.
Suzanne. Who's Suzanne?
I have no idea.
That's what I'm
Outfit
saying.
for Liam, new outfit for Zoe. 2 new comic genres.
Hold on.
Ooh. We unlocked a lot of stuff.
You guys think it was fun? It was so
Oh
good.
my god, wait.
Yeah.
Wait, he's Nosferatu.
Nosferatu?
Wait, what?
I'm looking through his outfits, and because of the thing you had last time we played, where it made them all different things, Liam was Nosferatu. It's still there.
Wait, that's awesome.
Wait,
Great.
where? Wait, where?
In the art gallery, in the characters, the fourth one.
The 4th one?
In the fourth tab is the characters, Liam's there. And like you'll see Nosferatu immediately, I promise you. When you go through the outfits. I don't know if Cinna will
Oh,
have it, because
outfits.
Cinna didn't experience it.
Probably not.
Oh.
I will be unlocking it.
You will. I
This
wanna
is,
see
like,
what the
so
new outfit for
fun.
Zoe is.
Oh yeah, I want to see it too. Zoe.
Oh my god, it's Hatsune Miku!
Wait, is it?
Oh my god, because of the it shows the PNG as an option for playable character on the things. That's so funny.
Wait, this is so cute.
I love Hatsune Miku as Zoe.
She looks so good with their little shoes with the wings on them.
Wait, I need to go to outfits. What the heck?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm on characters. Where's the outfits?
Yeah, the outfits
you
and
can swipe through them.
characters.
Oh.
That's why I told you to go to characters.
Oh, I see it now. I see it. Okay.
We got that, we got that.
Why is it? Oh, okay. Oh, it shows April with all of her little mascots too. That's cool.
Oh yeah.
That shows me the PNGs from when I tweet. Oh, I see that there's rods.
Yeah.
Duh, that's funny. Oh, I like his little sweater outfit is cute.
I know, right?
What the heck? Nico has a lawyer one? The ace attorney? What the frick?
Yeah, that was there last time, remember?
I didn't see. I don't remember it.
I
Oh, there's
definitely
the
remember
Joker.
it.
Oh, there's the pancake one. That's funny.
Yup, pancakes.
Wow, wow. Gosh, this is so
What did the moon do? I don't remember what that did. But yeah, it was the my little weird little village last time. It was the fungible fungus.
Oh, the Miku is super. The Miku is super
I know, it's so cute.
Oh, I
The
forgot that
Miku's
her
so
like
fucking cute.
her funny PNG was her as like a body pillow.
Yeah.
It is so funny.
How do we call people? I don't know.
Sasha! Oh my god, the feet artist. Jesus.
Oh god,
His expressions
yeah.
are so funny. Narrator? What the F? Narrator, this is what you look like? What the heck?
Wait, what?
What?
Narrator?
Stop. Go
Hold
to
on.
characters. He's on page 7.
Hold on, wait, Elsie's
Wait, I'm ready.
just messaged the chat. She said,
Oh, he's
she said
fine
she's
as hell.
sorry, I feel so unwell right now.
Oh no.
Oh no, it's okay. Oh,
Too
Pooks.
bad.
We can always
Took a nap
reschedule
and woke
another
up with
day.
a fever. Aww.
Oh.
We can always play with her again.
Yeah.
Really bad. Okay, hold on. Where is the narrator? I need to see this man.
Yeah, this one's funny.
The
He
narrator's
has a little
hot.
like. That's funny. Oh god. Space Heist was so good. I'm really glad we did that one.
That one was sick.
Oh my god. The feet, like anime girl
Oh my
is in
God.
backgrounds. Oh my
Wait, is she
god.
actually? Oh, I'm
Yes.
scared.
I'm so confused.
Oh,
Where
she
is the narrator?
is.
God.
Guys, look at
Oh,
that shit.
narrators
Oh, he's
and
on page 7.
characters. Yeah, page 7.
Yeah.
Oh, hey yo!
Also, thank you for the follow, Jordy.
Excuse me?
Hilarious. I'm sorry. This
Why
feet
is he
one's so
like
funny.
that? Why he look like that?
Oh my God. He kind of fine.
He is kind of fine. Can we fuck
He
the
kinda-
narrator?
I think we should. I think we
Kinda
should.
Oh, I didn't even realize there was a pancake background. What the heck? What's this? Oh, it's the feet drawing. Yeah.
The feet drawing is insane.
God, that's so funny.
Thank you so much for following.
Oh my gosh.
Sasha kind of fine. Can I be romanceable, please? He's got
Right?
blushing
That's
things,
what I'm
so maybe
saying.
better be.
Oh,
Better
feet
be.
artist, get out of here.
Get
Now,
out of
Sasha
it.
could get it.
He can. Real.
Okay. I do have
So
to
I got
go,
the
guys,
new
because
outfit because of the Red Bull stuff.
I'm gonna go, guys, because I'm a little EP, and I want to try to sleep early before work tomorrow. Yeah, thank you guys for having me. I want to play
Thank you so
again
much for
soon.
coming.
Y'all were so
This was
sweet.
so much
Thank
fun.
you. Wait, let me give you guys shout outs real quick.
Let me.
Oh my gosh, no stop. Oh
Before
my
I
gosh.
go.
I'm so glad you joined us. We definitely need to do this again, and
Oh yeah.
hopefully Elsie will be feeling better then. We gotta reschedule.
Yeah.
We have
Yes,
four of
Hopefully,
us.
hopefully.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Locket. I didn't have my throwables on today. I will refund you. Okay. Thank you guys so much. I'm gonna dip. But you guys have a good night, okay?
Yay! Thank you
Bye-bye,
for joining. Have a good
Thank you,
night. Bye. Get lots of
Pookies.
good rest.
Bye. You too.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm just checking the last few bits of new things.
That's fair. I'm just shouting both of you out currently.
Oh, y'all so sweet. Hold on. Let me do the same.
Yes. I gotta wait another minute before I can shout you out, unfortunately.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wait, is there like a
It's
timer
so
thing
weird.
on it?
Anyway, thank you so much for playing with me today.
Yay.
Oh my
Thank you so much
god.
for
I was just playing
playing.
Monster
This was
Con, really?
so
Wow, I
fun.
never would have guessed. Anyway, I'm gonna go because I'm probably gonna go work on some art stuff. I finally finished the reference sheet for my 2.0, so I'm like making emotes for that now. But excited.
Alrighty, I'll talk with you later.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye. I ran away. I ran away. I left. I'm running. I'm running and running. Okay, playing this. Put that down. I appreciate everyone for coming hang out today. You're all amazing. I don't know why my cheer doesn't have anything on this screen, but I love you all so much. I seriously appreciate the gifteds today. It's amazing. Really, really makes my day. Anyway, I love you all so much. I will see you when I stream next, which will probably be not till Tuesday. Yeah, it won't be till Tuesday. So yeah, I hope to see everyone whenever I stream next. Really amazing. I love you all so much. Goodbye.